Hello everyone and welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. I'm your host, Dia, back again for the second day in a row now after we finished off our second round robin yesterday, and now get to start what we'll call the beginning of the end of the season, the final round robin, beginning of course with the matchups of Group A and Group B. I, naturally, am not doing any of this alone, however. I've got some wonderful company with me. And first up, I'd love to introduce another one of our talent team that will be seeking a new legend to play coming next split. Vicky, welcome to the broadcast.
I love you, Dia. You know what? Shout out to Dia for putting me on blast because Bloodhound hasta la vista. Maybe we're entering that tier meta for real now, but it is the last day of Pro League before we see these changes take place. And on top of that, I think there's only like 3 days left of Pro League before that regional final, so much on the line.
There really is, and as the stakes get even higher, of course, teams are going to need every last bit of analysis, every last edge that they can get over other squads. And to bring all of that to the broadcast, we've got Jamerson, our what I'm calling statistical mastermind, as we move into this split.
Yep, it's definitely the season of stats because there's so much to break down with the new POI draft system. That's 2 rounds already that we've played through it. I think all the players are happy with it. We're happy with it, and I'm excited for this final round of play in EMEA.
Now, this does come right off the back of some of yesterday's games that were very exciting in their own right. Even as it was just the conclusion of the second round robin, the standings did get kind of turned around by the results of yesterday's games. Let's take a look back at how some of those games concluded, because it was a wild ride to get to where we are today. Starting things off, of course, when we were over on Storm Point, which is now the map that we're starting on, it was Free Agent Kids that took a massive lead early on with very aggressive plays, opening things up. In the rest of Storm Point, the Game and Gladiators to have a really nice showcase. And I'm going to give an honorable mention here to 3D Max, who were able to perform very consistently on that map as well. When we moved into Game 3, Cenote Cave maybe didn't go exactly Ninja in Pajamas way, but at the end of it all, we had 9 lives coming out on top with a masterful third party, continuing the theme of the previous 2 games. World's Edge, a very different story, however, as finally, Vicky, EXO managed to take the lead in game number 1 from Skyhook, no less.
It was huge here too. I mean, and something else we have to talk about is Danish, who had a pop off game 5 that really allowed them to elevate themselves in the overall standings before FA Kids being the only team yesterday to take 2 dubs. They opened up strongly on Storm Point and then ended it even stronger on World's Edge. So that consistency allowed them to take that first place spot, elevating themselves to 75 points, where Alliance, they got second with 53 points, a pretty big gap.
And after all of that, once we tabulated how this impacted the overall league results, we've got Alliance back on top. EMEA is once again topped by Alliance, who continue to, I would say, lead the way in terms of their macro, and yet I can't help but wonder whether we'll have a couple other teams catching up to them during the course of these next 3 days of matches. In the 11th through 20th category, we do have teams like Vex and notably Passion. The reason that I'm noting Passion here is because this team isn't playing anymore. As of yesterday, they're no longer together. They have gone their separate ways, and it is really impressive to me, Jamerson, that a team that no longer actually has anyone playing for it still is managing to hold on to the 12th place spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the potential, right? That's 45 points, 12th place after 3 series played. Imagine where they could have been if they didn't have to dissolve. But yesterday was a good look at, what the overall plan was for that team. They all wanted to get signed. They all wanted to move on to bigger and better things. And we saw almost every single player from that team with the new teams that they were on. They had their moments, but they were absolutely popping off. So the potential, it goes to be shown basically on the leaderboard right here, what that team was able to do and what now they can contribute to their new teams.
And they've looked fantastic so far, as you said. However, the teams that maybe aren't looking nearly as fantastic are going to be towards the bottom third of this leaderboard. Blacklist International, the most notable among these names, especially because of their performance yesterday. The fact that they managed to get third in the match day, rocket up the standings, and yet still be bottom 10 in the league is going to be a very difficult thing for them, especially considering that they have another match day to play through today, and even more pressure is going to be on every single day they play from here on out, because this is one of two that they'll have until the end of the season. But that does bring us to today's games, because we aren't going to be replaying yesterday's matchups of A and C. Instead, we're moving into, or rather B and C, we're moving into A and B playing against each other today, which will give a very different look at the game of Apex Legends and some of the rivalries that we've got, especially in Group A, could certainly impact the rest of the lobby. Of course, we've got fan favorites like Apex Warlords, Atlas, who have come up from the Challenger circuit, Aurora, who everyone's been keeping their eye on, and Vicky. Aurora, a very surprising and not in a good way performance this split.
Yeah, because you talk about the teams that now have to perform, time is of the essence, and Aurora just haven't performed to the degree that we were expecting. I mean, even making some changes that we could touch up on later going into today's competitive game with 38 total points and sitting in 17th in the overall standings. You have to be consistently in that top 20 to compete in the regional finals, but we were expecting more from a team that has no issue experimenting with those comps when we did see them bring out that lifeline and kind of sticking to their guns there, Dia.
In a funny way, we've got several teams today that are willing to experiment with their compositions. Saw Cybercats Ilonzi joining us on the broadcast yesterday and breaking down what we might expect from them in the final round robin. But Jamerson, I called you out on this for a reason. The statistics are really important in analyzing exactly how you're playing and where you can shore up your weaknesses. I hear you've got some interesting ones about conversions into wins.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be taking a look basically at the top 5% rate, right? So for a lot of our top squads in our groups right now, for between FaZe, Alliance, Go Next, Na'Vi, and GG, you can see that consistency matters. It's only Na'Vi there who haven't been able to get into top 5 as much as the rest of the lobby, but their conversion rate on it is at least 50%. But taking a look at another anomaly, it's FaZe right now, who is the top of Group A, currently in 4th place in the overall leaderboard with 60 points. They have 8 top 5s, but have only been able to convert that once into a win. You would think that's kind of detrimental, but the thing is that getting into top 5 alone is already an impressive feat in our lobbies, but you know that once you get into the top 5, it's not just about placement points. That's where you end up really being able to get a lot more kill points, and that's what FaZe have basically been the masters of. While they don't get, that many wins, it's when they're in the top 5, they'll easily get themselves into top 3, top 2, and then from there have games where they're getting 9 kills or 10 kills, and I think that's what's most important. Now, it isn't the worst thing in the world for them currently, but it does, of course, bring up that question. When we do get into the match point format, when that does become a thing, and that will be important in a couple more months, that's where the questions will arise for FaZe. Will they be able to turn things around? Will they be able to finally convert these top 5s into actual wins, like teams like Alliance or Go Next, who have a very good rate on that?
I mean, that is the most important question, like you say, alluding to things like LAN and even regional finals here in EMEA. Being able to close on match point is the pinnacle of Apex Legends. And when we think about teams that have very little experience on match point, I want to talk about some of those squads that maybe are coming up from the Challenger circuit and really impressing. Atlas have been at the forefront of that, Jamerson.
Yeah, I mean, Atlas, I would definitely put them right now with their performance. It's been amazingly consistent across the board. They do have wins on the board at the very least, and I would definitely place them closer to the upper of the middle of the pack right now, which for a team that just made their way into the Pro League is super important. They played through challengers, and now here they are, and they're showing that they can hang with the big boys, and I think that is a very notable thing, because we've seen teams falter once they've made it into the Pro Leagues, not being able to really find their identity or play within the meta, right? And especially you brought the point, it's yourself, Dia, that they weren't playing meta throughout Challenger Series, but here they are being able to bring out the Bang Cat and really be able to show their stuff with it.
It's been very impressive so far, and like you said, upper middle. Still a little ways to go should they want to make international competition, but absolutely a team to have your eyes on today. Now, Jamerson was talking about top fives, and I want to take this in a bit of a different direction, Vicky, because one of our teams is in top five so far, top five in the league, but still, I think is lacking some familiarity with the audience. Talk to me a little bit about Danish.
Oof, Danish. I mean, sometimes my very favorite morning treat to really snack on out here, but something also even better to see is this squad popping off with the consistency of sitting not only in 5th in the overall standings, but we did see them get 4th place total after yesterday's games, with them being the most consistent 8th place team that I've ever seen, with 4 of those games landing them in 8th place out of the 6, where they also were able to end up winning that game 5 with an explosive 11 KP game on World's Edge. And that's with them landing over by Geyser, because they had the 31st seed pick in picking World's Edge, while they prioritized Storm Point, where they were the 10th seed to pick down Beast. And this is the last time that we're going to be able to see these two groups really mesh together, because the last time these groups did meet, Danish got 12th place with more success on Storm Point. So that's going to be interesting to see now going forward, to see if they could still remain within that top 5. As you can see right here, the 4 games that they got 8th place, and then that one game that they won with the 11 KP skyrocketing them, giving them 23 points before ending in another top 5 here for the last game for Game 6 yesterday.
I've got to give credit where it's due. Quadruple 8th place, really impressive. And you're getting some nice placement points as well. But while Danish like to give a challenge to other teams actually in the games on ALGS match days, some of our teams go a little bit further and take the challenge onto social media. None more so than Aurora, who recently have been throwing hands online with Na'Vi. Given the fact that these two teams are in the same group, this is even crazier. But certainly calling out some of the, say, career records of Na'Vi and Aurora. This was the initial tweet that started it all, and then we had a bit of a fire back from Matape, who of course was not going to let this slide after clinching a spot significantly above Aurora just last match day that these two played together. Na'Vi ended with a respectable 6th place and took the opportunity to again fire back, letting Aurora know where things stood. Kinda even joined in on the fun, which I thought was really enjoyable, because Kinda not only brought some of the youthful energy that of course he brings to any squad, but also brought us an interesting video to showcase exactly how Na'Vi planned on dismantling Aurora in future. At the time, this was, say, an aggressive push from Aurora that was really well punished, and it was Na'Vi off the back of handling multiple squads that were able to ultimately win this fight and convert it into a great matchday result. Moving out of this millage area can be really challenging, but it certainly goes to show that Na'Vi are operating at full strength. We cannot necessarily say the same, however, about Aurora, because coming into today, there is a big roster change. And much like yesterday, where we brought up a big tweet, I'm not going to read all of this to you. However, what I will say is that Hardeki will not be joining us today. Aurora is no longer going to be playing alongside Hardeki, which should come as a big surprise to their fan base and to players, fans of Apex around the world. Hardeki has become almost synonymous with Aurora and their results over the past split. This time around, I will say there is just one member left on their roster that they can play with, so I'm expecting to see Rugby joining them for today's games. To find out more about Aurora, maybe catch a glimpse into their comms, find out what their game plan is and how they're feeling after this quick roster shift, of course, you can join in on Face It Watch, the official multi-view partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. This way, you can catch the main broadcast, you can catch Aurora POV, and maybe you were listening to Vicky and Jamerson and you want to pull up a little bit of Danish, a little bit of Atlas, see what's got them going in the new split. I, for one, am always going to have the map open, and I'd recommend that you do too, since it gives some fantastic context. Even if you're not joining Face It Watch for the actual broadcast as it happens, one of the really nice things that Face It Watch has just introduced a VODs feature, where should you miss a day, miss a game, you can always tune back in and watch the videos there. You can watch live at fce.gg/watchalgs. And with that, I'm going to let things go. I think we've set things up pretty well. You've got a couple of options for how you'll watch the ALGS. My personal favorite is right here on the main broadcast with Vicky and Jamerson. Take it away, folks, for game number 1.
Thank you so much, Dia. Dia in the driver's seat, Jamerson. I very much enjoy that. But you know what's also crazy? Something to touch up on the last thing that Dia talked about before the face it here. And it's the fact that Hardeki, fan favorite Hardeki, who is easily a top 5 EMEA player, not playing with Aurora. And that is, when I saw that change, I found it pretty interesting. Of course, I know that Aurora, they have their cards in their favor here, but we have to see how these changes really work out together, because as somebody who was playing the Lifeline, he was still able to get more kills and more damage, I believe, per game than Oirang and Night Impulse. So that is going to be crazy to really fill those shoes for whatever Aurora's really got cooking. And of course, we are going to be starting off on Storm Point after we saw the action yesterday. Yes, we will have our first 3 games on Storm Point before we transition onto World's Edge.
Yeah, going back to that Hardeki point, I mean, he was the essential battle medic, right? On the front lines, dashing through everything. So it's a very unfortunate, but hopefully he does land somewhere, and we'll see how they end up filling out the rest of the draft. But taking a look at it, like you said, we're going to be starting it off on Storm Point, and I mean, I don't think we're surprised whatsoever by most of these draft picks. Cedo Station, Mill, Lightning Rod, Zoo Station have been very high priority, and I think here in particular for EMEA, when it comes to drafting, getting these priority zones, especially on the edge of it, is super important with how the zone has been behaving lately. So I do like the drafts that are coming out from a lot of our squads. I think right now in particular, I want to point out Gaiman's pick there of Echo HQ, being able to pick that one up early on. In this group alone, we've seen teams like Na'Vi really be able to utilize that southern zone to get really high kill points along with placement points. And with Gaiman already dominating this A versus B matchup, I feel like they could really run away with the first half of this match.
Oh man, and it's so interesting, you know, that goes hand in hand with the POI drafts and how that's influenced the way that a lot of these teams want advantage of where they could play to their strengths, whether it be on Storm Point at first or World's Edge. Of course, we don't have that final pick because Passion, once again, will not be in this lobby. So when we do start game number 1, we will be having 19 squads. That's just something to keep in mind here, but also another POI that could be left open for a team that wants to try to play more into their comfort.
Yeah, it leaves a little bit more space open at the end of the day, but also we all know that 20th pick, that last one. Yeah, I don't think you really want to pick up the Eastern Edge there, or Lift, I believe, is the other one that's available along with Trident. So I think all this lines up. Na'Vi are, I think, 3rd overall in their group, picking up Barometer South. They need to be able to convert this again. Like I mentioned, the last 2 times these groups faced off, A versus B, Na'Vi did perform extremely well off of Storm Point, and I think if we get these southern zone pulls, that they can convert that. They were doing an amazing job when we got rings that were going down towards Echo HQ, Devastated Coast, and they should be able to do that once again.
And that would work perfectly into the rotate too. We keep seeing those southern circles. That day that you mentioned actually had ended with Na'Vi finishing off so strong after having a rather lackluster day in first place with 14 KP, putting them in the top 10 for groups A and B. Will they struggle at the very beginning now that we will be starting off on Storm Point? I'm not expecting them to have that issue actually. So that's why I love the fact that we get to swap between these 2 maps midway through the Pro League season to see how a lot of these teams have been able to adjust beyond the POI drafts, Jamerson.
Yeah, again, we're still waiting for a lot more of the data to come in. I know that I believe APAC North is done. APAC South might need to conclude as well, but we are starting to get in all of this data, and shout outs to everyone. I think Burke the Nerd is one of the people on Reddit right now that have been meticulously by hand collecting all the data and calculating themselves. I don't know what their methodology is. I'm just gonna go ahead and trust them at this point because, of course, you leave the numbers to smarter people, much smarter people than you.
Oh no, Jamerson, you're putting a lot on here for Reddit, all right? But you know what though? With those numbers, I definitely don't blame you because we had a bunch of projected points needed that was compiled together on the competitive Apex subreddit, and it was very interesting to see some of the data calculated on there, but also puts into perspective what these teams need to go for now that you have like 3 days left for you to be able to put the points on board to at least be within the top 20 to compete for the regional finals. So that's why when we talk about the teams that may find their comfort zone on Stormpoint, since we are starting on Stormpoint, I do believe mental is everything, especially in a game like Apex Legends, where if you could start off with high level momentum, you could just keep snowballing that into the next map, even if you don't have that same success, which is actually something similar that we saw from Danish just yesterday. I mentioned it earlier on before, but they are a very, as you saw, consistent Stormpoint team. Before they were able to turn things around, were able to rotate from their Geyser POI and get that huge dub on game number 5.
Yeah, and I think going back to that point about time running out, essentially, right? We are in round number 3 right now. We have 2 more match days left for every single group, for every single team, and for those teams that find themselves in the bottom third of the leaderboard, they're not completely out of it, but it means that they need to show up and perform. You were talking about points averages. Well, the teams that are down there in the 30th, 29th, and 28th, I mean, they're looking at needing to have 2 top 3 finishes, something along those lines. I don't know. They've done the math on Reddit. You can go ahead and check that out, but it is going to be an uphill battle to say the least. And it's at that point, it's added pressure, right? If you're already struggling as a team, what happens when you're really put under pressure? When diamonds at the point where diamonds need to form, how do you actually pull out that victory? So this is going to be a very, very difficult final third of the split for some of our teams.
Absolutely, especially with a huge mid-season patch coming out right around the corner. I mean, there are certain things that miracles can't really go into work if you are at the very bottom end of the leaderboard with 7 points, and the max amount of points that you could obtain in a day of Pro League is what, 25? So, I mean, that's just going to be absolutely insane. You have to literally frag out of your mind out here. As you guys, if you think you could do better than any of the pros in this lobby, make sure you guys check out the Challenger Circuit. Number 2 finals are happening tomorrow, and maybe you can get involved in future Challenger Circuits. But if you guys want to tune in to future upcoming talent, make sure to tune in to twitch.tv/versusgg. And you could also sign up for your chance to compete against a lot of these pros here. Challenger Circuit happening in July 20th through the 22nd. Registration will close on July 17th. You could visit battlefy.com/ALGS to sign up.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I think for Challenger Circuit 1, EMEA had something like 300 teams signed up. For NA, there was, I think, 500. So yeah, a lot of you really did take up the challenge, and hopefully more of you guys will join. I think NA had to play through 17 rounds or something absurd to try and get it into the finals for that day. So long days ahead of you at the very least. But hey, like Vicky said, if you think you can take them on, go ahead. It's going to be a crazy grind, but hey, that's what you got to do to make it pro. But here we go, launching into our first game of the day, Vicky.
Let's get started here. Stormpoint ready to go. And once again, guys, thank you so much for your patience. There was a small delay, so we were able to resolve some issues. And now we get to dive right into the action, starting off with Aurora and Rugby taking Hardecki's place on this team.
Yeah, I mean, Rugby, of course. I feel like he should be able to pick up this lifeline much better for them. Hardecki did play it incredibly aggressive, and we all know the memes. So we don't need to harp onto that one. So we'll see. But Rugby right now, at the very least, he comes into this squad without as much pressure as I think new teams were, right? Right now, Aurora's sitting in 17th place, 38 points overall. They are well within reach to try and make it basically into the top 8. So the pressure isn't as mounting and just as dreadful for him.
Yeah, at least we're able to get the Trident coming out of there. You saw Passion UA were trying to sneak their way to maybe get the Trident themselves. Also split loot the DBZ buildings that we saw earlier on before rotating away. But what Aurora's going to absolutely love, Jamerson, look at that. They got the ring console, they got the survey beacon, whatever they can work with here in making that next rotation, because it is pulling close to their POI over by wall, and it's going over to the north side right on top of Go Next.
Yeah, going straight over to Cascade. And one thing I want to note about EMEA and their playstyle is just that overall, like, priority to zone is one of the most important things for success, I would say, when it comes to a lot of these edge zones, right? So if it pulls hard up to like Elrod or goes down to Echo HQ or down to Cenote Caves, it's priority to zone that basically wins out for a lot of EMEA games. But this one being a bit more centralized, going over there towards Cascades, it really leaves this first game open to be anyone's game. So even though a team like Aurora might have priority on it, Go Next on top of it, it is still open for anyone to be able to take. But right now, Go Next, of course, taking the wheelhouse building early on. No surprises there whatsoever, but they are getting challenged for it by 3D Max.
3D Max quickly with their rotate, already gonna find a free building here, and we're gonna expect a lot more other teams to start quickly rotating, but this worked perfectly into their team comp. As you can see, EQ gonna already start setting up with the Watson fences. You see the scan across from them on the other side. As Go Next, we mentioned it already, they do land here. A team that's actually very consistent in getting into that top 5 that you were highlighting earlier, Jamerson. We know that Kashir is always so good when it comes to calling out rotates and quick rotates at that, while players with the Fusey that we've been seeing make his way into the Pro League and different comps that we've also seen other teams opt for. We're already gonna be able to take high over Aurora on this high ground to try to fight for that survey beacon.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of teams having very similar ideas, trying to go to the north side of the map right now and then work their way on down, because that is going to be the slow side of the ring overall. So you have a little bit more time to work off of that. It does seem like we've got other fights taking place across the map right now. Graceful going down as well. So things not looking too great so far in game number 1 for Team Nessie.
Happening already very early here where we see other teams currently with the Nessie being eliminated. Once again, we don't have passion in this lobby. That's why we started off with 19 squads. It's nice to highlight here. Looks like the fighting has not stopped here too. By that choke closer to Pylon, Forbidden now going to be able to wrap around another team. It's full English with Serdao coming in clutch. Forbidden get eliminated with Serdao making a statement. Going to be able to get the gold knockdown shield on top of this. And now full English are going to be able to get a full reset on top of it.
Wow, that was an incredibly close fight, but you can see why so many players actually put a lot of focus onto maybe getting the L-Star in their hands if they can, especially if they basically have naked guns overall. The L-Star just sings and destroys players right there. You can see that they did complete out the fight in time. You've got teams like Gaiman coming in from that rotate on the south side. You have to also worry about possibly Na'Vi rolling up through all of that, but they did it just in time there to avoid a lot of the fighting, as it looks like we do have another movement in, and the Beast of the Hunt is going to get popped by Passion UA as they push forward.
Passion UA, Max Strafing popping that shield cell. They do get scanned. Had popped the Beast of the Hunt earlier here too, but just trying to see if he could get even closer before getting a scan himself to see where the split positioning is coming from the opposite teammate here. For trying to take care of the Catalyst. Has just been doing such a good job here, just bunkering down. Max Strafey though in the middle, getting caught with the Mastiff, reloading it. The arcs are right behind him. No way! All of this, he is in so much pressure. Passion UA get deleted. FaZe with great nade usage there too. We're able to wrap around them and essentially sandwich them with the Arc Star and the regular grenade.
Yeah, the strength of the Catalyst there really, I think, is one thing that you want to point out, that they had control over the doors, right? So FaZe are able to play off of that, while on the other side, Passion UA cannot. They know they have to basically int through one side, while while FaZe had all of the options available to them. So that Catalyst really controlling basically the entire fight with the traps down on the stairs, with the doors controlled, and allowing them to get that natural flank. You do also have to note that that was a beautiful Arcstar stick. You can see he was trying to decide, hey, I'm stuck, where do I go? He tries to get away from his team. You can see the entire time he's just waiting for himself to get knocked by that, and that's a very unfortunate position to find yourself in, with no shield and the Arcstar about to pop your life. But it does look like Na'Vi now continuing their slow rotate here on the southwest side of the zone, coming up from Barometer, making their way over to the mill.
Throwing hands here too, already 3 KP to their name. Purple Evo shields works right into that next rotate that they're looking for. Matafi speeding up just so that way he can close in the gap with the rest of his team. Of playing on the edge with the circle closing in, they have no other team to worry about on the west side of the circle. Basically, the entire lobby minus Aurora have found themselves into where that next circle is going to be pulling. So many teams are currently coexisting in Cascade.
It's the Ring 3 information that a lot of players are trying to go for right now. Rain actually picking up the survey beacon for his squad to see what's a little bit more available. Oh my goodness. Hard pull away from that Cascade Falls area, going down over towards the lift. So teams like Trojan, Eternal, Apex Warlords, Curly in beautiful spots.
Even better though for Go Next to still be safe in Cascade in the building of their choice. Although there is a lot of openings in that building that a lot of teams could try to fight for, but they know that they would easily just get thirded at that point here too. But it's still with Go Next being in that next circle could capitalize with the squads that are gonna have to funnel into their line of sight when it comes to rotating into where it's gonna be pulling here. But Gaming Gladiators with the right call and rotating off of the northwest side of Pylon, where Full English will be trailing down right behind them.
Yeah, the difficult thing for Go Next here, even though they are still in, you can see that the churn basically has shifted its way to the north side of the map. A lot of teams were very much considering this one to go over towards Cascade, and so we're working their way to the north, and then having that very southern pull coming out is going to leave Go Next as the ultimate gatekeepers, basically, of this northern side. Luckily for them, they are split holding that compound, right, with another squad, and it's a Watson squad at that. So those two might be able to work in conjunction with each other. You know, we're not talking about colluding. We're just working, you know, talking about, hey, just kind of having a natural understanding. Let's not grief each other. Let's make sure that we just play for KP here. And I think for both 3D Max and Go Next, they should be able to realize that. And then ultimately, it will come down to these two squads, Go Next versus I've already forgotten the team.
Well, right next to them here. There's so many different teams on top of each other, but it's about how they can play patiently into this. Where you see Kashera trying to take a little sneaky angle with FaZe being right next to them. You see the Arcsar toss in their direction, but there's also a lot of opening cracks and crevices for some of these raw shots to actually land here, as you saw Kashera trying to get into that position while players in the middle of their rotate now. Gonna be able to see where some more of these teams are going to try to rotate through for that south side, but I like the pings already coming in where they're going to have to wrap around command center with the circle being right around the corner, because Alice was going to gatekeep them if they didn't make this call. If they do approach from this north side, though, we know how many squads like FaZe, like Go Next, that are waiting for them on that north side of Cascade.
Yeah, that's just nice, fortuitous, you know, circumstances for you to happen. Basically, because of the gatekeeping, you are left to just zone wrap around, and luckily for them, they should be getting to a spot that's a little less congested overall. Na'Vi, though, are taking their time all the way here on the outskirts, picking up every scan possible. You can see Henchman is 845 off from getting reds for himself too, with the amount of scans that they've been able to pick up. And so now they're working from the south side. They'll note that there should be a lot less congestion here on the south side. It's going to be a nice free rotate up for them. This is a beautiful spot for Na'Vi to play off of.
Oh, but you see the pings here too while they start approaching right behind Full English, which Gaming Gladiators, we saw earlier on in that bunker right north side to Full English, could try to poke from afar to get extra Evo Shield and maybe even extra pressure, because Full English at least has the option to counter rotate through that right side choke exiting out here of Jurassic, so they can still safely find themselves in that next circle. But the same can't be said about Na'Vi, depending on if they want to try to overextend here with Gaming Gladiators looking directly at them to third party.
Yeah, Henchman almost went down for that scan. I think he was down to about 30, 40 HP there, so I think Na'Vi might just think better of it. Right now, they're in top 15. They've already got some kill points. They're getting gate kept here by Full English. I think the full idea is just, you know what, let's go ahead and carry on the momentum that we have from the early game. We don't need to take this fight, completely avoid it. We've got 3 points from KP. We've got 1 already from placements. Let's try and make this a top 5. So I love the idea of just avoiding this fight. You've already gotten your points. Now it's about extending that early lead.
And you can even see him that side by side, Gaming Gladiators just waiting in the bunker if they did decide to try to commit to that. I do like this option of just rotating over to the west choke of Jurassic instead, because there's also an Evo Harvester there that they could work with. But then now wrapping around, knowing that the circle is going to be pulling to the north side, all the way northeast rather, from Cascade Falls into that no-name area, it's going to be detrimental because they will still be in the line of sight of Gaming Gladiators once it pulls north there, and all these other squads on the outskirts are going to recognize that and going to try to rotate in the same direction as Na'Vi.
Yeah, this zone can't make up its mind. Am I going to Cascades? Am I going over to Lift? Let's split the difference right in between. And so the idea for Go Next is still try and hold on to that side is going to be important, but you can see now that it leaves available for a chance for the teams to be able to evac in. Cybercats, though, aren't given that chance as the Ash goes instantly down. They do still have the Bloodhound along with the Caustic alive, but for how long? Elon Z gets melted there, and now it's left to just the Bloodhound.
Actually deleted right now. Not too sure if this can make magic happen with Cybercats just trying to stay alive here. Blacklist are also looking at them. It's gonna be able to take some shots for now, but Aurora recognizing that Blacklist is also gonna pressure them out means that they can't fully commit just yet too. At least some extra makeshift cover with the Caustic providing some extra time. Well, he does get the res, but are they able to get away with now Aurora having to ignore that knock and rotate to the north side? They get the re-knock, but do they fully capitalize with Blacklist looking at them?
They just need to put a little bit of pressure on zones closing in, and it is the faster side of the zone. Elon Z will get popped right back on up, but he needs to instantly heal, and he's got to hope that no one else is in the area. Luckily for him, though, it looks like every other team is currently on the move. Aurora going for the evac themselves. They are working with their way over to the waterfalls right now. It is currently safe, and this is actually a pretty decent spot to play off of and try to find some kill points.
See the shots going in from Aurora here too. Rugby taking over that lifeline role, gonna be able to call in that care pack here too. You can imagine that they probably already have that gold Evo since they have the purple Evo shields, rather the gold knockdown shield since they have the purple Evos. While Na'Vi continue on the domination on this rotate, keeping them by the choke. Cybercats finally get eliminated in your feed, and Na'Vi looking to send Danish right back to the lobby while also looking at their 6 to make sure they won't get gate kept by, I believe, it was the squad that we saw in Blacklist who were on the high ground, who had given up that high ground to now try to rotate against Aurora.
Yeah, and they're just down to a 2-man. You can see Yuzako JMW dropping down to Oye. He does get cleaned up. We'll see if Na'Vi can possibly pick up this final kill here, as they are currently the lobby leaders overall. 6 kill points for them. And now we have hit the top 12 territory, but Aurora versus Na'Vi here on the western edge. We got the zone closing in a minute as well. Aurora looking to get aggressive.
And guess who's waiting for them too? Looking at this entire fight is Gaming Gladiators, who are finally starting to take some shots at both of these teams, trying to now avoid this third party because Na'Vi are going to get pinched if they stay in this spot.
Now you can have the fast reset, luckily, for that lifeline. If they go down to critical damage, Na'Vi Matafe is able to get that bat off just in time here, but they are not out of danger quite yet. 30 seconds left to go before the zone starts closing in on them. They'll try and buy some space with this drop of the Bangalore ultimate, and it does force them back and buy a little bit of time, but it's not over yet. Gaiman are still there, looking to try and put an end to Na'Vi, but it's going to be Aurora now going straight on in.
Wow, they are so hungry. They know that it's a duo now at this point after Gaiman was able to get the henchman, but with the smoke, they feel confident enough to get the next knock onto kinda all the KP matters here for Aurora to capitalize while avoiding feeling that pressure from Gaiman. But Na'Vi are still alive. It may be a solo for right now, but this circle is closing in the next 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to GG there to see if they can actually put a stop to Aurora. Na'Vi still alive. Matafe just on the edges there. If he could just survive one more fight, try and get the top 10. Get a pretty decent game on the board for them. I think that would put them at about 8, maybe 9 points overall. But it's FaZe Clan here, playing inside the building, looking for an opening out. They will take a little bit of zone damage as they move on. Never mind, that's a lot of zone damage. Almost half their HP gone, leaving them basically within killing distance of that Sentinel. Kashera picks that one up. Nags, though, finding a moment to try and get the res, but it is not a gold bag res, and it doesn't even matter here, as 3D Max will go ahead and put a stop to them.
And look who was waiting for them on height was Atlas. FaZe in such a terrible position there, but still managed to survive for right now. Even with that catwall, Kashiro taking those shots, really highlighting how that building had allowed them to not only settle down, but gatekeep a lot of these teams that were funneled entirely out of Cascade. But Atlas getting a way better position though. Even if they're out in the open, they could play off the lip of the hill to get out of the line of sight of the other teams.
I believe we just had FaZe going down as well. Aurora now finding themselves in some trouble. Oh yeah, already going down here. We'll see though. The docked pickup will at least prove useful for them. Unfortunately, 9 Impulse has been thirsted. They haven't recovered the banner quite yet. As they move on, they look back to see, hey, there is actually an opportunity. 40 seconds to go. They need to do it now. They need to pick up that banner, go ahead and plug him in instantly. And then from there, they need to move up this uphill struggle. It's going to be rough, but if they can do it, this would be a huge miraculous play.
Can they get away with it? With players being right there, gaming now running for their life, Eternal's gonna wrap behind players that actually may be the distraction that they need, but they finish the fight just as quickly as Oiring now moves in and Rugby gets deleted out of the fight, having to pop this shield back. Oiring needs to back away. There's just too much pressure, but they were still able to get the banner. Now it's all about getting that res.
They do it with 10 seconds left to go. We'll see if he can loot fast enough. As soon as he hits the ground, the ring is basically B on top of him. Trojan here on the south side looking to try and punish this res, but they know that they can't really drop down for this either. It's too much of a risk. And so they'll hold this high ground position here. Nice handoff of ultimate excels for Adnam. He will have his ultimate once he finishes popping that for that final ring. Right now, it's all about trying to punish this res, and it looks like they will not be able to do so.
Gaming Gladiators finally get eliminated. Aurora's still cleaning up those kills that they can find. They are able to wrap around as a full 3-man trying to contest Trojan, who had to rotate through Coastal. So they've been here for quite some time, holding onto those buildings, and now playing off the low ground, putting them in the positioning disadvantage.
Aurora, though, Rugby ends up going down, and that is not who you want to go down in this final fight. You saw they were able to recover last time because Rugby hit the tap, but now there is no one there available for it. It's 9 Impulse who just got brought back into the game to try and survive for his team. It's final 5 here, and this game is still a long ways from being over.
What do you do here if you're 9 Impulse? You want to survive because there's still 5 squads left. Go next, still alive. 3D Max, we're neighboring them. We're looking at them as Kashera cleans up another kill. The straggler. That was 9 Impulse, leaving Trojan alone on this south side of the circle. Go next are still coexisting, though, with 3D Max, with Atlas trying to take some shots now.
Yeah, go next on the ultimate low there. Atlas really pressuring them. 3D Max, though, fortunately, because they went center so early on, haven't really been able to work their way up towards purples. Hopefully, in this scramble, they can drop down, do just enough damage to pick that one up. Right now, you can see that south side of the map. That is the god spot because of the churn up here on the northern side, the congestion. The final 3 teams basically stacked on top of each other.
Oh my goodness, not only just lack of purple, but also lack of ammo that they're working with as they drop down here and immediately goes down. I don't think that was on purpose, but the circle closing in forces them to drop here. Go next, get eliminating your feeds. 3 squads left, and 3D Max playing King of the Hill, coming out as the successors of that building while staring at Atlas trying to reset. Trojan, though, with no contention, are looking at these two fight without anybody trying to boot them out from being in the middle of the circle.
And Trojan are trying to find their timings here. We do have the Bangalore ultimate going down, and there's really not that much coverage there for Atlas. So Atlas are just going to go ahead and full send it, commit to second, which is the right choice here. But they end up trading. There we go, finishing off 3D Max. Atlas now left in a 2v3. Trojan taking things very slow here to get the finish off. This is a massive game for Trojans. You saw there they had at least 9 kill points to get the plus 12. What a start for Team Trojans.
Wow, with 11 KP, are you kidding me right now? The dub and 11 KP to start off the day for a team like Trojan, highlighting how great that comp could be when you're holding onto one of those buildings off to the side of Cascade, Jamerson, and letting all these other teams funnel into your line of sight. Let's not forget about the skirmish that was happening over by that south side of Cascade, where we saw teams like Na'Vi trying to rotate, struggling. We saw what Aurora was able to do when they sandwiched them off the height, what Gaming Gladiators did coming out of the bunker as well. So it was a lot for Trojan to not only take care of these teams having to funnel their way outside from the south side of the map, but then also getting out of the fray for all the teams that had to fight to survive outside of Cascade.
Yeah, there were definitely a huge list of teams above them that they needed to take down, and they were able to do that successfully. So a massive win for Trojan, who are currently right now in the overall leaderboards, 14th place with 43 points. And so a win like that, slowing down the momentum of teams like Na'Vi, Go Next, FaZe, that is absolutely so crucial here going into the final 2 days of play for Group A.
Yeah, and it comes into question, can they keep that up on Stormpoint? Of course, we still have 2 more maps on Stormpoint, but seeing such a strong start for Trojan also means that you're able to start building up that gap between yourselves and the rest of this lobby very early on. Goes back to what we were mentioning too about that early game momentum that you want to start rolling through with, especially when Trojan had landed in Coastal for Stormpoint.
Yeah, and we talk about basically here when it goes to the center zones, right, where it goes a bit more into the center of the map, that it's not always about priority getting into the center zone spot, but you can see how that still pays off for teams like 3D Max, for teams like Go Next. They were able to leverage that into a top 5 finish, but it's not the end all be all when you do have more of a central zone. You can definitely play off the south side or the north side here. It's about really being able to clear out your back, and because you have a more central zone, that kind of pressure is a little bit more spread out across that final circle. Although we did end up seeing a huge pileup of teams on the northern side there. Overall, Trojans, like you said, get 11 kill points in the end, along with the plus 12. Atlas, they weren't able to pick up as much as they would have liked to, but still, a second place finish with 2 kills is definitely nothing to shake a stick at, and 3D Max in the overall third with third place and 2 kills itself. So it looks like Trojans really did eat up a lot of the lobby there in terms of kills.
Yeah, Alice also landing, I believe, Lightning Rod there too. So getting that northern rotate to be able to put themselves in that high ground position to overlook a lot of teams, like what we saw happen to FaZe when that circle did completely shift away, really results in what we see here with, Aurora getting 5 KP and Na'Vi getting 7 KP, but not the placement points that they were aiming for.
Yeah, still though, this is a good conversion for them, right? I mean, you're coming from the south side. They took their time. They got their early KP, and they wanted to stretch that. They didn't want to take a 50-50 very risky fight over there at Jurassic, right? And so they completely avoided that fight with full English, and that decision alone moved them up. I believe they got what was it, 10th place overall or 11th place overall. Very close to securing at least an extra points, but that move alone netted them an extra 4 kill points throughout that. So you can see how these small micro decisions actually do compound over time, and something like that is going to be important for Na'Vi, especially because they are right now basically on the cusp of the group stages here. They're currently in 8th place with 52 points overall. So continuing to have very consistent performances like this is going to be important for them moving on, especially for a team that we know them to be a little bit better on Stormpoint than on World's Edge.
Especially when the stakes are high out here. And that was only game number 1. We are just getting started, everybody, because when we come back, we got game number 2 with more action on Stormpoint waiting for you.
Welcome back. It was a short break, and one that honestly, Chamberson, could not be over fast enough because of how exciting game one was. With, as you talked about, a really pivotal zone shift, pulling everyone out of Cascade. It was fascinating to see how different teams were able to, or sometimes not, adapt and survive.
Yeah, and we get to see really the importance of having those early ring consoles, right? If you're not able to get that ring 3, you're kind of baited into that zone thinking that it is going to go over to Cascade, which is why we had such a huge congestion and pileup on that side. Ultimately, to note that, a lot of teams did kind of swerve there once they realized that the pull was going a little bit more in between Cascade and the lifts there. And so adjustments were made, but we have to note that the importance of that ring 3 scan is so big. Na'Vi were able to pick that one up. I believe Full English might have been able to get it as well, along with GG overall.
Let's take a look at some of the final moments of that last game as well, because as much as it came down to macro, just as much came down to what really was team's best decision, especially in Final Circle. Leading up to this, of course, Aurora did pull off that cool Mission Impossible move to pick everyone else back up, and yet moving up the hill ahead of Trojan just cost them a little too much.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing to note is also, like, we're seeing how a lot of our IGLs are starting to become very familiar with each other, that they're almost in sync in how they're making these calls now, right? When they see these pulls, you're seeing the movements coming out from a lot of these similar teams like Na'Vi and Passion to try and rotate over to the south instead of getting involved in the north side. It's very interesting to see how the IGL shot calling has evolved over the course of the last 3 weeks and so. But yeah, this final zone, I mean, it was just a bog standard. Trojan understand their win condition. They don't risk anything, honestly. They allow the traits to go down and they go in for the push. Sure, they probably could have picked up an additional kill or two, but at that point, it's at the risk of possibly losing someone, and they don't take that risk at all. So that was a great call coming out from Trojan.
One of the other things that I find really fascinating about that end game is how much grenades, or in this case, lack thereof, changed it. Because, say, for example, the send of 3D Max onto not Trojan, but up towards the north, Atlas, was impacted by the fact that Atlas really couldn't put any pressure on anyone else with a lack of ordinances, because so many of those were expended in trying to keep teams off of you through the exit from Cascade. A really fascinating turn in what otherwise could have been a different game had people had a few more resources.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was also spent on that south side, right? Because we initially did have that congestion on the north, and then it shifted to the south. So keeping teams out, keeping teams like Na'Vi and Aurora out were super important. I think all the nades were basically expended there. I think when we come from somewhere like NA, where we expect teams like CCE to be able to hoard all of that up, that's when we see a lot of nades still being left into the late game overall. But I think right now, with teams starting to pick up a little bit more Watson, maybe we do have a little bit more utility coming in when she starts praying those arc stars and such. So we'll see. But I think it was super important here on game number 1 for teams to basically use all their util at the right times. I think that's exactly what they did. Wasn't as necessary here in that final 3, especially for Trojans, because they just had the superior position. The utility is just a little, it's the cherry on top overall. But if you've already got that winning position, you don't need it.
Yeah, very much so. And Trojan do a really good job of letting the rest of the lobby sort of put itself in a position based on the ring where they can ultimately find a win. One of the other fascinating interactions that we were looking at early, you talked about how important ring 3 scan was. We didn't see a whole lot of people playing for Command Center that actually had a ring scan until we panned up and saw Atlas and players both interacting around Command Center, forcing them to go different ways. Very different ways, ultimately, of also putting pressure on the north side of Cascade, leaving Atlas as the lone survivor.
Yeah, one of the nice things, especially here on Stormpoint, is that you do have access to the tridents, and so you're not taking as much damage when you're going for those ring console scans outside of the zone. I mean, we got to see Na'Vi utilize that extremely well as on the southwest side of the map where they were moving their way on up, and so I think Stormpoint here does leave a lot more space for teams to be able to play like that. We just didn't quite see that for this zone in particular because it was such an even spread with how central that map was, how central the second and third rings were. So teams felt a little bit more pressure to try and get in earlier on, especially on that Cascade side.
And you got to imagine they'll be feeling even more pressure, not just in match 2, but in the coming weeks, as we are going to be introducing a whole new patch to the ALGS. And while many things will stay familiar, the landscape of Apex Legends, not just competitively, but across all the player base, whether you be a casual who wants to maybe hop in for some pubs, or you're really interested in that end ring distribution over here on the competitive side, there's a lot to look forward to in the coming patch. What are some of your biggest takeaways, Jamerson?
Quads. That's what I'm excited for, because there was a natural evolution in BRs over time, right? You know, if you've been playing BRs for a while, it started off with bigger squad sizes. You had 5-mans down to 4-mans, and then Apex Legends was like 3-mans, right, on the launch. And we all know at the beginning of Apex Legends how much it hurt. It was ruining friendships. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm playing with this guy, and it's only trios, and so unfortunately a lot of players were left out. But now we're gonna have quads as our LTM. It's gonna be 15 teams, so it's the same amount of players, it's just less teams overall. And now you kind of leave open the question, hey, is there a possibility that maybe, you know, competitive picks up quads, or what kind of interesting compositions can we come up with as a format instead? You know, right now we're basically stuck on controller along with possibly recon and an assault, right? That's what we're basically here with. But now you have a 4th player to add in there, so the possibilities are basically endless.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm really not sure how much people are going to min-max when we get into quads, but I really want to see that sort of experimentation where you do have a controller, you do have a recon for the utility, and then you're able to diversify a little bit more after that. There's certainly, as we said, a lot of experimentation, a lot to look forward to, perhaps even some custom lobbies. I know we've had some events teased in the past, but for right now, we're going to be refocusing onto what's happening right here and now with Stormpoint match number 2 coming up. This is all, of course, pre-patch. However, we're already starting to see, especially EMEA, in a lot of ways, prepare for the patch by picking up things like Pathfinder, experimenting as Cybercats were last game with things like Ash, and though it didn't say go particularly well for Cybercats, you can always try and run it back this game.
Yeah, I mean, leave it to Cybercats, of course, to try some new things overall, but I do love, of course, to pick up a Path. I mean, I still feel like he plays awkward. Again, I've been playing Apex Legends since day number 1. Pathfinder was my primary main because his his grapple allowed me to basically keep up with my teams who were constantly pressing W, and so I could just grapple on top of them and basically keep up pace with them. But right now, him finding a space in the competitive meta is fantastic, working as almost a double entry, also giving you the flexibility with the insider knowledge as a skirmisher to have that ring console scan for your team, but also being able to get the additional Evo charge, right, off of scanning the care packages. So you're sort of double dipping and able to really accelerate your progression throughout a game with that Pathfinder.
It's been really useful for a lot of teams, especially on World's Edge, where you do have a little bit more cover to play, and Pathfinder can get you from place to place. We haven't seen nearly as much of it on Stormpoint, and a lot of that has to do with the open space that you have to traverse. Well, Pathfinder is really good for that. It also doesn't provide you any additional safety later on into the game. One of the things that we can touch on here, however, is how much space teams will have to be moving across in order to make it to this zone. We saw Cenote Ring yesterday here in EMEA, and now we're going to get the chance to see how this plays out once again.
This is another one of those rings where if you're playing Edge, coming out from the northern side might actually not be the worst thing in the world. If there's a chance that this one ends up pulling over to Godrock on the north side of Cenote Cave, just outside of it, well, then you'll be able to come in late to try and take that one. And again, if you end up getting in Godrock, that's basically so many free kills as teams filter out from Cenote. But I think everyone kind of knows maybe we don't need ring 3 here. Maybe it's all about priority getting into Cenote, because there are a lot of caves to be able to play off of early on, and that is what we're seeing. So many tridents being utilized here to move early, even for Na'Vi. They're not even finding themselves on purples quite yet. 135 off from Matafe is going to put them in a little bit of a difficult spot, but luckily for them, they will be able to get into this building safely. No one spotted them as kind of struggling a little there with that trident.
That's the team anti-synergy we'll talk about later. Aurora, clip that, post it on Twitter a little bit later. It is interesting, though, watching Na'Vi and Blacklist behind them, because we're really identifying what teams have done their homework, not only here in EMEA, but internationally. Looking over at APAC North, in their second day, they actually had a ring that was nearly identical off of the ring scan to this one, and it pulled all the way into this corner of Cenote where Na'Vi are sitting and Blacklist are next to them right now. I do want to see whether that replicates itself in this particular game, or whether we'll be going a little bit more central to where Nessie are currently positioned.
Boy, Nessie looking to get aggressive, but this fight is already taking long, and this is one of those buildings that naturally will already be dragged out, and so I like that they're going to go ahead and avoid this. We don't need to take this fight anymore. They note that the timing was completely off, and then they have to expect that a lot of players are going to come in from behind, and so leaving that for Vex to take, I completely agree with. They have plenty of other positions. This is not something that you need to force.
It's an awkward building too, because you can coexist. Like, I've seen it happen. Teams will play on top, teams will play underneath, and teams will play in the middle. But it is so easy to pick a fight, especially in between the teams that play the middle floor and teams that play the bottom floor, that unnecessary risks in the early game, of course, are going to be passed by. Vex do get to stay alone, but they get to stay alone for now. Other squads will absolutely have more opportunity to sit next to them at a point where Vex can no longer pick fights with nearly as much freedom. Passion UA rotating through the northwestern side of the ring will be able to pick up a little bit more Evo on their way as well, and any rotation path that takes you through Mill and the survey beacon that it holds this game is going to be incredibly beneficial.
Now, this is one thing I do actually kind of want to ask more of the pro players about, because I do note that on a few teams like Falcons, they prioritize getting purple onto their Bloodhound here, but I feel like for EMEA, I've been seeing a lot more focus on making sure your Bang has that purple. It's been a kind of stylistic difference, I would say, overall between some of the teams. And of course, I have to note, Falcons from North America, because of the success that they found. Is that maybe a difference maker? Maybe if teams put a little bit more focus on their Bloodhound getting purple, would that make a difference? We'll see. Blacklist International, unfortunately, find themselves down Uzako. I don't see exactly where his crate is, unless that's it down there. Go Next are camping it, and unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to get it.
Especially now that you've attracted some attention from Passion UA, who are rotating in from the north. Blacklist, fortunately, still have a Watson to be able to work with. JMW should be able to keep other teams relatively far away from Blacklist. But once somebody decides that they're fighting you, there's really not much that you can do, especially as a duo. You and I were talking about quads a little bit earlier and how exciting that can be, because just the addition of a singular other person makes such a massive difference.
Ooh, FaZe looking to get aggressive. Cybercats losing out on Elon Z, unfortunately, there. And this is what I want to see out of FaZe right now. Really play hard edge, look for these isolated fights, and I think they might be able to spot it out. Their ping's going down. I believe that's going to be onto Blacklist International that are playing on the rocks up there, and they might actually go for this fight.
Now remember, FaZe are landing next to a lot of squads that choose to go deep here, and so I like that they sit back a little bit and get to evaluate their position in this zone and how they want to approach it without just having to fly in and adapt. Something that you do want to avoid, especially in high-tier lobbies in Pro League. In Challenger Circuit, you can get away with it a little bit sometimes. You land on somebody, you take a fight, but in Pro League, it is much too big of a risk, especially if you don't already have a read on who's moved in ahead of you. For our part, we know that ahead of FaZe lies Passion UA, Blacklist, and Na'Vi, and looking over at where we saw Cybercats lose a member earlier, they may still be able to make a recovery, currently tanking zone, and with Aurora on their tails.
They do get the plug back on in, and they will be able to get Elon Z back. Taking a look at some really late rotates, Aurora going all the way up to North Pad to be able to hit all those scans. So they are playing the super economy game here. I think they want to try and walk into the zone with all reds. And wow, take a look at that pull. It is going to go ahead and pull up northwest out of Cenote Caves. For the teams that thought, hey, it's going to end here, for teams like Vex, Forbidden, they're going to have to move now through the south side. There shouldn't be too many buildings for them, so that's going to be a difficult rotate.
hats off to Blacklist and Na'Vi. We called them out for doing their homework at the beginning. It's clearly worked out for them. Even Blacklist right now, again, as a duo, are able to control a lot of space, keeping Go Next away from them on this high ground. And if you can hold on to it for long enough, there should be a lot of placement points that come with it, as this zone does appear to be mirroring almost exactly what APAC North gave us in day 2.
Yeah, for Blacklist, even though that they're playing as a two-man up top, their economy is still really good. It's a 30-30 in the hands, I believe, of their Bang player. So, you know, the 30-30 doesn't eat through that much ammo, and I believe he had roughly 200. He was 10-4 in terms of cells. And you've got, of course, the backup of the Watson generator if you need to stretch the economy. But it looks like they were able to get to Crafton. Oh, never mind. Hierarchy went down, so JMW is just getting Hierarchy back into the game. And here comes a push out from Go Next. Now Kashara's going to leave his boy behind as he drops down to try and challenge for this. Having a little difficulty, JMW takes him out. It's a 1-for-1 exchange, and they're instantly popping this res. We'll see if maybe FaZe try to come in for the third party. Hierarchy getting dropped down now into the fray here, and he might just be gifting over free KP to Go Next.
Oh, it would have had to have been the clutch of his life, but finishing it off with a headshot on the Hemlock, that's just nasty slab. Go Next, inherit this position, now have a little bit of height, but they lose it just as quickly, since as you were talking about, the third parties are incoming, and it's Passion UA that are on them like a sack of bricks.
Passion UA just moving into that high ground spot. Now they'll be able to utilize these Watson pylons. No one really clearing those out, but Artie will get some free nodes there to play off of at the very least. I don't know if he's dropped down pylon himself, but now Passion UA up top. They do have to worry about their back. I believe that's FaZe should still be in the area, and so for now it's all about biding time. I mean, we're only here at 18 squads remaining, so that was the first squad to go down.
For those of you that are joining us through Face It Watch, of course, you'll know, if you have the map view up, that FaZe are, in fact, in the area. Jamerson, you called it perfectly. They're sitting just up north near the bridge where they were earlier, overlooking Passion, and now Cybercats, who have rotated in alongside this. So FaZe have eyes on Cybercats, Go Next, and Passion, and are absolutely a threat for a third party. But for an entirely different read on this zone, we've got one of our late edge teams rotating, and it isn't Aurora, it's Eternal, who are just making their way through Barometer now, and they are not the only ones. Again, if you've got that map stream up, Aurora passing them by, and Atlas are just to the south of Eternal, making this a 3-team rotate.
Yeah, triple reds off of no damage done, essentially. That's insane. Their rotation must have been crazy coming out from Eternal at that point, but running into someone here isn't the worst thing in the world. It's round 2 closing, so they can take a little bit of damage from the ring, but they do, of course, want to move with the tempo. It's going to be Aurora. They're looking to gatekeep for now. They do have the ability to just skirt on down to the south side, continue through Barometer here. The question is, do they have the economy for it? So you got 2 medkits along with a full stack of syringes for Misty, so it should be enough. They can craft along the way. There's 2 crafters there for them, so they should be okay, as long as these shots don't land too viciously from Aurora's side, and it looks like Eternal will be able to make a rotate out.
Ooh, I couldn't help but wonder, though, looking at this rotation, whether it would take them into Atlas. And it certainly appears now that both teams that had priority on zone, Aurora and Atlas, have taken note of Eternal, making this a much more difficult rotation. Fortunately, there's a limited amount of time that you could really be here. Only a minute left until the next zone closes means that Aurora, Atlas, and Eternal all have to get a move on really soon.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Atlas are, it looks like they are going to go ahead and just full commit onto this evac along with that mother load down. But the problem is they can't even play off of it. They all have to heal. So it's a lot of wasted utility, hoping to possibly pick up a kill here. That's an evac tower along with that mother load, and they still weren't able to actually do any damage to them. So for now, they will survive. I think the important thing here for Atlas is that they cut them off from the crafters, right? So they're not able to get some more medkits. So their time in the zone is starting to run out, but this is a lot expended by Atlas to try and secure 3 KP.
5, hold on, 4, 3, and that's going to be it. If you're not able to make your way out of the zone, and they are not, the game is over for Eternal, whether they like it or not. Atlas do get the chance to rotate out ahead of them, but effective gatekeeping is all that it takes. The ring does so much work for Atlas there, since as you talked about, very little of their poke was actually landing. They just managed to do enough to keep this team off their backs, and now do have to deal with Aurora, who are rotating in ahead of them. Two different ways that this can go. Of course, Atlas could take a rotate through Cenote, where they're going to encounter the likes of Vex.
Yeah, for right now, though, Vex here on the south side, they have a huge opportunity to pick up some kill points. Now, they can leapfrog their way through these rocks, but it looks like they will go ahead and commit to the low ground here and chase after this damage and try and get a little bit more. But Vex still weaving their way through the zone right now. It's going to be Denze to go down. Clemmy falls as well. Babylon's the only one up, but not for long, as they will fall. It's going to be GG to pick up those points here, but GG aren't out of the fire quite yet. Zone to their back now, charging forward. It's going to be Nessie here on the south side looking for a moment, but Atenum won't be able to take out Cracked. Unfortunately, it's just graceful up for them. Cracked still bleeding out, though. And I don't think anyone really wants to try and punish this and push out from their buildings quite yet. So Graceful might have an opportunity to get a reset at the very least.
Two scans on Nessie, but that means two teams are overlooking it, like you're talking about, providing some artificial safety. If Nessie have a mobile res, there's even a chance that they could get their third back into the game, though that seems to be a bit of a long shot. For the moment, Atlas still sharing space up towards the north with Aurora, both teams very close to each other. In fact, I'm not sure that either really knows what's going on here. Atlas and Aurora are so close that you've got to imagine they're taking an engagement.
Boy, players watching their back. It's going to be Fitzu there with the triple take, and I love the evolution of a lot of our players actually picking up the triple take overall. I think especially with the prevalence of energy guns, having that extra long range option of the triple take is so strong, and of course you're going to pick it up if it's golden here, but for Kazakh now, he's going to be on the Hemi Havoc. And of course, no doubts about that. The two highest played guns in the overall pro league now, but it's going to be the trade-off for the Kraber. This is huge for them, who are currently playing off the edge of the zone right now. They need to find an opening. FaZe are in such a commanding spot with height, with that crossfire. That Kraber could be the opening they need to get into the zone.
Here are my Cyber Cats, though, whipping out the new composition we teased earlier. It's Ash making her way into the ALGS. Whether the rest of this is going to be used, and it sounds like it has been, for Cyber Cats to group up is really critical, and another Kraber gets picked up, following the trend the rest of the lobby is taking of why use lot bullet when few bullet do trick.
All right, Kevin, as FaZe now moving, and I think they were actually able to clean up players, and as we were talking about, Kazakh needed to land that Kraber shot. He needed the opening because FaZe's positioning was just way too good for anything other than a one shot to take him out. FaZe, though, now getting pressured as the ring is closing in behind them. They are not safe yet. Arctic taking a lot of damage from the zone now, rushing in to tank some of that gas, along with, of course, that Bangalore ult. Nags now dropped down to basically one shot. He will fall. Arctic might be the next one to go down here. As you can see, it's all up to Arctic. He was able to get that bat off, playing off that knockdown shield for the time being, and gets the upgrade. What? Someone left the block there for him.
He may have red shields. We'll see how long it lasts. Cybercats, we know, are looking at this. In comes the tether. And Arctic can't move too much further away. Elonzi goes down. The rest of this on the Havoc could still work, as, yes, Cybercats do go down. Arctic playing perfectly around the cover of a care package. Now, does have to get the rest of the team back in order before Passion UA take too much note of this. But Passion UA, very distracted with another engagement.
That was almost like a poor man's Newcastle wall, right? You got the knockdown shields on either side, along with the care package there in the middle. Here's Passion UA looking to drop down. Oh no! They lose out on Artie, but it looks like they will be able to get him back up. So luckily for them, no one quite there to punish. Never mind, Forbidden Gaming pushes forward. 0-0 right on top of them there. But it is a 2v2, brought down, I believe, to a 2v1, finishing off Max Strafey. Armor swap for 0-0. But from that high ground, it's going to be Sonya to come in. Calamitous stays alive for Forbidden Gaming, though, and secure them at least top 7.
That means that it's a 1v1. Forbidden looking for a res. Havoc not going to finish off the thirst on low ground, but Calamitous can't very well go for the res either. He's going to have to climb up and take this fight. Danish go down. We're into the top 5 squads as the ring pulls us all together. FaZe from the north side have completely picked everyone up, have reset, and now have actually a fair bit of cover to work with.
They have a lot of cover. Take a look at that line of rocks that they can play off of. Their biggest threat right there. They've got the scan. Synetic connects to take out Light. And now our 2 heavy hitters came in. FaZe about to head off, and it's FaZe with the advantage off that Kraber pick.
Huge advantage. No way really to fight back effectively for Gaming Gladiators, even with the height as they go down, leaving us with just 2 squads. It's FaZe with the Kraber versus Na'Vi on the other side. Na'Vi, who predicted this zone from so early on, and FaZe, who had farmed the edge of ring.
10 kill points for them with another 3 on the sidelines here. Synetic opened up that last fight with the Kraber shot, narrowly missing there, giving I think one of those players haircuts. For now, though, as they try to go for the peaks, you can see the pre-fire coming out. They know the threat of that Kraber, and the only way to basically win in that duel is hope that maybe you connect with a 3 burst on to that player that's peeking right now. Synetic is taking his time, though. He is right now in the middle of the zone. They have prio. That's forcing the wall out from Na'Vi.
Oh, this catwall is used, but the knock on Matafe is bigger. Synetic does open things up. He finds the magic bullet, and again, it's a 2v3 now that has just been created by the Kraber. FaZe will take the win in Cenote. They farm the edge of the ring. They find the Kraber shot, and they grab themselves another victory.
This was just a masterclass coming out from FaZe in the way that they rotated, in the way they played this entire hard edge from that northern side of the zone. Man, we can see why they are such a threat, but we have to note that in this final 3 or final 4, we're looking at a Game-In, FaZe, and Na'Vi. All those teams, of course, leading the leaderboards overall for their respective groups, so we're not surprised whatsoever, especially seeing as how Stormpoint is basically, you know, some of the stronger maps for them overall, so no surprises there, just the fashion that it was done in. That's what we really need to take a look at.
And let's bring this back to something that you brought up at the very start of the broadcast, Jamerson. The top 5 conversion rate for FaZe compared to a lot of other squads, extraordinarily low. Because they're playing for kills, they're not really able to find wins nearly as much. The fact that they were not only able to keep the kills going, but also grab a win here is the perfect shape to be hitting as you approach the end of the season, when ultimately match point is going to become so much more impactful.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that is always going to be the question. Can they close out games? And they are showing that they definitely can at that point. Of course, we do have to note, it's kind of off the back of Synetic with amazing Kraber play right there, opening up 2 fights with it, right? Taking out Matafe off of Na'Vi, but also taking out one of the players from Game-In, even though I believe it was a 2-man. Synetic is just an amazing player. I think everyone's been talking since the beginning of the season. Keep an eye on this player. He's probably one of the best players in the league right now, and we are seeing it.
And I want to shout out Arctic as well, who of course was able to clutch up behind the care package or our budget Newcastle wall, as ultimately that fight up against Cybercats and the subsequent reset as Passion UA were completely enthralled with another fight, let FaZe get everybody back together and then make those plays as a 3-man squad tactically with the Kraber. Great use of the catwall from them as well, and recognition when the catwall went up from Na'Vi that one side was much weaker than the other, that surely you had to have Matafe moving up on the Bangalore, and we're able to punish that with the Kraber. It is a 13 kill game for FaZe Clan, taking them to a 25-point win and rocketing them up the leaderboards for match day 7.
Yeah, that's going to be incredibly important for them. Really, there isn't too much pressure when you look at teams like FaZe and Game-In, but the fact that they're still playing basically standard, they're not letting their game plan change at all, right? They're not relaxing, and they're not letting down their guard. I think that's a very important thing to note about these top teams right now, is that with all this pressure alleviated, they're not trying to test anything out. They're still playing standard, and they are succeeding with that. That's a good sign when we move on later on to regional finals, and we have match point coming in into the equation. And so I love to see this kind of consistency out of them.
We had a couple of teams who maybe didn't make it into the top 10, but teams like Players, Aurora, and Atlas, who despite their lack of appearance in the last surviving squads, still managed to pick up quite a few kills and keep their point totals relatively high to the rest of the lobby, and move themselves, hopefully, a little further into the standings with a chance to succeed later. For our squads that succeeded in this particular game, the Gaming Gladiators, who ultimately were taken down as a duo by FaZe and Na'Vi, still had a lot to contend with, especially when it comes to the damage coming out of Synetic. You called him out, being incredibly clutch, and with the Kraber really opening things up for the team.
Yeah, a quarter of his 2k damage basically done with the Kraber there at the end, but amazing stat line coming out for them. You can see the individual contributions across the board. I do really, like you had mentioned, want to shout out Arctic. Him surviving was super important. Synetic wouldn't have that 2k damage line if it weren't for Arctic with that reset. So again, I know that it does become kind of a trope to say, but it is a team game, and we get to see right there why it is so important.
And it means that at the end of match 2, 2 games into match day 7, FaZe and Trojan are tied for first. This will surely be broken in our next and final map on Stormpoint before we move on over to World's Edge. Na'Vi are right behind, Gaming Gladiators sneaking up there as well. We've still got plenty of teams that are waiting for their chance, be it in the last game of Stormpoint, be it in our first couple of games on World's Edge. But we've got, as we said, that final game. Stormpoint will be coming to a conclusion right after this break.
Welcome back, everyone. FaZe up after an explosive game number 2. Jamerson, you were highlighting their rotation 2 to get into exactly how they wanted to contest a very heavily congested northern side of the circle, but rather avoiding all the chaos from what was actually happening inside Cenote, but also called out the best way that they could approach that circle while using the rocks to the right to rotate through all of the teams that were fighting through Cenote. What an amazing play here from FaZe, but even better, look at this, the catwalk, the huge plays that had to be done here from Arctic to stay alive. Forget the turbocharger that was by that care package. You called it. Discount Newcastle Wall, right? You gotta make do with what you got, and Arctic did exactly that. That play allowed them to not only take the game, but right here, this Kraber shot, opening things up for FaZe and then move into a 3v2 situation.
And we talk a lot about the armor advantage in fights. That is an armor advantage right there. Him still being on purple was the difference maker. If he had that extra 25 HP, maybe he could have survived it, but man, that was insane. And the thing to note that it's scary how good FaZe look when they have Synetic with that Kraber landing shots, but honestly, they don't need it. It was just the cherry on top for them. Synetic just made it easier for them to finish that one out. It's a huge fight for them. But I do want to note that these have been 2 good games for Na'Vi so far here on Stormpoint. In the past, Stormpoint came in on the second half. I had questions of whether or not it was their performance on World's Edge that put some more urgency on Na'Vi to perform on Stormpoint, but it looks like it is just a natural advantage they have that they are just good on it overall.
It's great. They're sitting right behind Trojan with 24 total points, while after the explosive game that Trojan had opened up the day with, it's nice to see Na'Vi trailing right behind, staying consistent here while we go into our very last game of Storm Point before we make that transition onto World's Edge, where we can see if Na'Vi can keep that up, Jamerson.
Yeah, Na'Vi, if they want to have really good momentum going into World's Edge, where they do typically tend to struggle, a nice, I would say a 10-point game, right? Another top 5 finish for them would go hand in hand with that. But here we go, heading into game number 3, Vicky.
Getting all set up here after a nice win from FaZe, 13 KP. I mean, the young Finnish player Kinetic with those crazy Kraber plays really coming through to highlight what you mentioned earlier at our top of show, Jamerson, the consistency from a team like FaZe, and they are displaying exactly why they are at the very top of EMEA here. They are going to be able to loot in Command Center when they do have their POY, but even better for them, wait until you see where this circle is pulling, because looking a little similar to the action that we may have seen, Jamerson, for game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, typically, you know, in EMEA, I would characterize it as teams being able to play off of priority, the zone. So when you do get like a shift like that, it's great to see that FaZe were able to play hard zone. Oh, we are going over towards down to B. So if we're going to talk about priority, you're looking at Danish, Blacklist, Cybercats, all with the opportunity to basically play off of down beast. Blacklist would more than likely want to try and take that the top of down beast. Danish are probably going to swerve in and exist on the inside. Cybercats can coexist with them there, but the question is there a chance that this one pulls down to Mill? So maybe waiting around for Danish over at Mill to try and pick up that ring console once it closes up for them could be important. Oh, this is difficult.
Oh man, because we've seen a similar circle like this where it ends up pulling to the north side. Well, Thernal are looking to clean up some early KP themselves, being able to not only get the dirty off of Phoenix, we also saw that Leifin was able to get knocked here too. Thernal capitalizing off of their quick rotate now through Devastated Coast, where Full English are suffering. Maybe not the Full English, instead just leaving out a solo while they try to look out for that straggler. Can they find him though? They know in the direction of where he went, but Serdell is hiding in a crevice and Tyler is on the hunt.
Yeah, luckily for him, it's not Missy on the other side of this one, who could throw down that scan and spot him out. Maybe on the move over towards this Evo Harvester, he spots him, but no, he won't. There will be an opportunity possibly for Dell to move forward, but he's running out of time. Might have about 30 seconds left on these banners.
Tyler knew that there was an issue. He was looking around, knew that something didn't feel right here. Hopefully we have to take a look at if Full English are able to reset while we take a look at Blacklist instead, who absolutely need to have a very similar performance to what we saw yesterday. We know their capabilities, and with the circle pulling towards down beast, you could expect this to get heated very quick with Cybercats very quick on their rotate, looking at Passion UA, who are trying to also take some shots at them from the side.
Yeah, so Blacklist, Cybercats, Danish, all playing this one pretty standard to, especially if it does continue to pull over towards down beast. I'm surprised that, you know, with the composition that they have, that they don't move in a little bit deeper. They want to just try and control these buildings on the outside. There we go. And they're now making the move to scout out the inside of down beast to play in, and they will go in deeper. This is going to be safe for them overall, especially with the pickup of that Caustic, right? I believe Elonzi was playing Lifeline in game number 1. He made the swap in game number 2 over to that Caustic. Now they have a more comfortable position to play off of this.
Playing for that final circle positioning, bunkering down here too. More teams trying to rotate while Na'Vi are on their side quests, taking care of the Prowler's Nest for right now to charge up those Evo shields. Also looking in the distance, an evac tower has been called in, but you can expect a lot of teams trying to prioritize, trying to rotate from that south side, simply because Mill does have that ring console here for a lot of these teams to try to exit out of Cedo, Cenote Cave, like Vex. So Na'Vi being on the outskirts here can not only charge up those Evo shields on these Prowlers, but also try to gatekeep other squads from trying to get information.
Yeah, Na'Vi know that they don't have too much priority here, and so they can take their time. They know that the really important power positions inside Down Beast are going to get taken up, right? By Danish, by Blacklist, by Cybercats. And so they don't really need to force the issue here. They have plenty of time. They're playing off of basically the slow side of the zone either way. But they are still working their way in slowly but surely. They do have Vex coming up behind them at some point, so they are going to have to worry about that as Matafe takes some shots there from the other side. I think that might have been either Nessie or 3D Max, but they will be relatively safe here.
A Hemlock taking a chunk out of Na'Vi. Luckily, they do have enough shield cells and bats to work with here. Even pinging that ultimate accelerant, just in case. Hold on to it for now while more teams. You heard the evac tower in the distance. Vex maybe taking advantage of that. Forbidden slowly approaching their way from Mill's side, but 3D Max coexisting here with Na'Vi, Nessie. More teams now landing right on top of the rooftop. A lot of teams now banking on the zone to try to shift towards this direction, more so than the north side where Down Beast is going to be having a lot of cluster of teams.
Yeah. This south side, though, I think we're going to have to definitely keep an eye on, because if this continues to pull up north, we are seeing basically the biggest pileup over there for Apex Warlords playing off the edges. Oh my goodness, the cat almost going down there. Will be able to back off, counter scan just to keep them at bay. The full reset hasn't come out quite yet. He still needs to hit that medkit.
We also saw earlier in the feed that Full English finally get taken out. 18 squads left, and luckily he is able to pull off the shield bat. Looking at Apex Warlords now getting the nade in their direction. Just trying to see if he could get into a different angle. 42 damage here, just trying to cut off their rotate. Also trying to prevent this team from trying to get the Evo Harvester if they haven't been able to wrap behind them in the first place. Now having to forcibly pop that Phoenix kit. Doesn't look like maybe a med kit is possible here, but they got the gravity cannon to instead take priority over that next circle.
Yeah, that's just a great disengage. Again, we're talking about teams having to make that decision in the mid game here and in the early game. If you've already gotten the early KP, do you need to take this 50-50 fight? No, just go ahead and avoid it and get into a better position overall. You can see now it's changing of positions. They're looking to gatekeep themselves as we now take once again a look at that south side of that map. Right, where we've got FG, where we got Forbidden, 3D Max, Na'Vi, along with Vex, and it's GG late to the game here, coming up from behind.
Oh, so many for them to consider on this rotate, especially when you look at teams like Atlas players coming in from right behind them, since there's a ring console and Cascade. But look at the amount of teams coexisting north side of Mill by No Name, closer to that respawn beacon. We saw them already beforehand, but Vex on top of Na'Vi, 3D Max neighboring right alongside them. Gaming Gladiators having no issue playing by the edge as they usually do. Looking at that ring console, Forbidden are on the other side on that northern building over by Mill.
There might be an opportunity here where now Go Next Esports, because they were a little bit late to the party, who they ended up taking the buildings that Cybercats were initially eye up. With this zone, there's a world where it does actually pull over towards Go Next, and for them to be able to play off the Watson composition there could be incredibly strong. Now this is the never-ending fight between the Warlords and the other squad, as again, it looks like they're in a pretty rough spot. I don't know if he can evac out of this one, and so Apex Warlord now keeping them contained on the inside. They do have the Beast of the Hunt if they want to pop it for the time being, but I think they're looking for a safer opening here. They want to do some more critical damage before they push in.
Turning in the pressure here with the Havoc. Don't got an extended energy mag on here, but Arcatch is in a really good spot behind this rock, just trying to see if the squad is going to be forced to take the outskirts and take circle damage, and Apex Warlord's going to try to match up with Eternal, trying to gatekeep them. Two of these squads that have now taken their time, not only in trying to contest each other, but wasting the time for a lot of these other squads that have already found a spot into that next circle, being comfortable, and that could gatekeep both these teams once they do make that rotate into that circle.
And Eternal. The lack of information is information in itself. You don't have, if you don't hit anyone on that scan, you know exactly what their move is. They are mirroring them, looking to hard gatekeep right now. And Apex Warlords are actually given the time to go for the full reset. They're able to hit up the med kits before Apex Warlords make contact. They will go ahead and lurk this play right now. but it looks like they have actually spotted them out. Huge damage coming out from Tyler here, cracking one already, forcing down the mother load on top of them as well. Missy has gone down a little bit low, but Tyler will wrap around, excuse me, to try and get on the other side of this wall. There's going to be a hard zone wrap back the other direction, possibly for the Apex Warlords, but you can see now they are kind of kept in place currently, and this is going to be... this might actually end up in both teams going down.
Yeah, I was gonna say just the fact that this fight is going on for as long as it is, it's Eternal are just trying to take easy pickings at Apex Warlords, who are sitting on the bottom of the barrel of the overall standing. So maybe thinking that this is free KP, they were able to get a knock thanks to the ring helping out onto Zerifer. But Tyler is about to go down to the ring himself here.
Yeah, I like the idea out of Eternal here, but they end up losing out on Tyler. They do get the syringes off in time, but you have to imagine that they don't really pick up much in the way of heals overall because of that zone wrap that came out from Apex Warlords. So if they have enough heals to actually survive and make it into the next zone, I would be surprised. We'll keep an eye on that for now as we move back on over to the western side of the map. It's Gaming Gladiators right on top of Mill, dropping down with that scan. Blast counter scans on the other side. He does get flanked. He's cracked, and now he's going to use that movement speed to get out of dodge. Swap out here as Light pushes in aggressively. It's Calamitous to take him out from Forbidden.
Oh my god, he was trying to get some suppressed fire there too while Blast is out of the fight, popping the shield back, and now Forbidden come out on top for free here in a 3v1 situation with Gaming Gladiators struggling to stay alive, but you can only imagine the third party is right around the corner. Trojan have heard the shots and are now looking to show face while Blast managed to get away.
That would be an uncharacteristic game coming out from, or excuse me, fight coming out from Game, and we expect them to be able to really stand toe to toe in an even 3v3. There was really no pressure of a third party coming in. They took their time. That is just a surprising loss for GG. We'll see if they can get back on in, pick up those banners, but I don't think there's going to be a world where they can do that. Now, as we look at the other fights taking place here on the south side, we do have the evac tower coming up for Vex, but there are so many teams in the area. They're getting melted on that balloon.
I don't know if they're able to get away with that. We're gonna have to see, because they are absolutely getting melted. And 3D Max now, as a duo, are trying to take control over this fight, and easy timing for them to try to take advantage of the KP they can clean up, getting already one knock. IEQ's gonna try to set up, maybe with a gen here, sends out that thermite. They are able to get the rest for right now, but they have to stop it. Wrapping around though, taking a split angle is aimbot.
He wasn't able to actually get the re-knock there, so they will get the full reset on the other side. 3D Max losing out on the initiative on this fight. Oh, it was so close. They could have actually played this one in the 2v2, but now with the reset, it is basically impossible. Best thing they can hope for here is really play off the pressure from the zone that's about to close in on them, but they are on the slower side of the zone. There is time for Forbidden to actually recover here. Blast now coming in from behind. He might find an opportunity to pick up these banners, but never mind. Forbidden are going to hang around for as long as they can.
3D Max got that scan onto Blast, and I've never seen Blast run away quicker than ever before, because he dipped, called it an evac tower, and is now not only having to leave those banners behind, but trying to prioritize his positioning into that next circle, knowing that the circle is now closing in here, making do with what he's got, with 3D Max still playing that out as a duo, trying to gatekeep Na'Vi.
Na'Vi were able to get down that evac tower. We'll see how deep they actually make it through here. Forbidden looking to gatekeep again this southern congestion right now, but looks like most teams have actually just flown right past them and they are completely unaware. So unfortunately for Forbidden, they aren't able to really capitalize off this position and pick up more kill points, but they are at least getting closer to hitting placement point territory.
Forbidden approaching right behind Trojan right now, while 3D Max are waiting for them on the other side. Of third will get eliminated. 15 squads left, and FaZe are still popping off here, trying to keep the other teams that have taken way too long to rotate into that next circle, which is why we saw the Turtles' demise. Atlas get eliminated next here, and Forbidden playing around the catwall, having to avoid not only his extra pressure, but imagine Aurora looking at this fight in the distance, licking their lips to see if they could take any chunk and any free KP, while Na'Vi finally get eliminated.
Yeah, Aurora need this game. They need it desperately here. if they can wait out just enough time for Forbidden and Trojan to actually engage upon each other. The unfortunate thing for Aurora here is that Trojan aren't really under that much pressure. They kind of want to wait for Forbidden to actually run into their crossfire and then engage. Now Aurora moving in from behind. They note that Forbidden are pushing forward, giving them a lot of space, but as they turn around in time, they crack Impulse. Rugby actually on the front lines here, finds the knock onto 0-0. Now Forbidden are in a really rough spot.
The fact that Aurora, though, are able to still keep up the pressure here while splitting their attention onto Trojan to Forbidden, trying to keep out of both sides, repositioning. They eventually get taken out here as Aurora now see the opportunity to close in the gap. You see that Bangalore ult has been called in and Trojan splitting around like roaches, finding themselves into some cover. 12 squads left here and waiting for them on the other side, south side of Down Beast. It's gonna be Danish who have held the building since the very beginning of the game, and Nessie taking some shots, pinching them inevitably between themselves and Aurora.
Aurora, unfortunately, because of the fighting that they've actually been doing here on the eastern side, are low in terms of utility overall. No nades in the hand of Oye. We'll see if maybe Rugby or 9 Impulse have something. But their biggest play was really to try and punish off that Bangalore ulti. The timing was just a little bit late, unfortunately. Maybe if it went down 2-3 seconds sooner, they could have actually caught them out. But I think they just had enough time to avoid the staggering of that Bangle to make it into cover. Now here on the north side, the pull down to the mouth, to the maw of the downed beast is about to punish a lot of our teams that decided to prio that northern side of it. Cybercats here on the low ground charging forward. Can't really utilize a lot of the space that typically a Caustic would get you, and it's going to be go next going down though. Fortunately for Cybercats, huge pickup for them. We'll see though with this opening if they can continue down the back of that downed beast. You can see Blacklist unfortunately don't have an angle on them from above. Will allow them to go for that reset.
Cybercats are actually able to heal up. They have the shield swaps there too, and the Pathy once again closing in that gap to be able to get that KP that they needed, even if he had to risk getting knocked there. FaZe is the only one really looking in their direction, and they'll be able to play off that fence slip. See a knock player in the distance there. Graceful, Nessie in some trouble. Noises is literally 1 pixel of health before Nessie eventually get taken out by Trojan. Let's not forget that Trojan were getting pressured by Nessie originally with Aurora to their backs, and now they completely turn this fight around, take care of Nessie, and are able to get this reset.
Trojan now have the opportunity to get a second win in the first half. You remember they took game number 1 at that Cascades endings here. For Aurora though, they're looking to clean up the rest of the lobby. Moving forward here on the northeast side, they've got to be a little bit careful charging out because they've got much safer position here instead. You don't really want to give that one up for free. You can see that it's FaZe getting punished now. But FaZe though still, as Sinek ends up going down, they had an excellent first half overall. You take it top 8 with a few kills. Ooh.
We get to take some of these charge up Sentinel shots, missing the last 2, but Uchako showing why this POI that they've been on is really playing to their strength. The circle giving them that priority gets another crack while they play King of the Hill on top of Down Beast, which is still in that next circle, as you can see on the mini-map. Playing underneath them is going to be Passion UA. Cybercat still alive. The triple take, though, not going to be able to find those shots necessary here, while Haraka still trying to get those blue evil shields up to purple.
Ooh, Cybercats in a world of trouble right now, getting focused by so many teams. And unfortunately, they lose out on their Pathfinder here. It'd been nice to have an empowered, energized Zip to tank up some of the damage in the late game. But maybe he crawls into safety. Oh, never mind. All the util going down on the Cybercats right now might have tanked this bang ulti, and they will fall. Sanya picking up almost all those kills there. Aurora moving in on this building right now, but they are getting shot from Blacklist up top, and Fricks here on the bots. Aurora did such an amazing job of clearing out the south side, but it might go down before they even reach 6 here. You can see Blacklist International with that high ground position. They tap him to try and bring him back in, and no one really in position to try and punish that.
actually crazy. With our last 6 squads left here, Blacklist still are obviously not going to give up this high ground. Instead, they're going to be able to keep pressure onto the teams playing on the building right down below. Trojan, Danish playing on the outskirts of that southern building, while players uncontested in the northern side of the building closer to Down Beast. Even better though, eventually Blacklist are going to have to drop down. They're going to wait it out, but Passion UA are going to wait for them on the bottom. If Danish split up their attention and focus on Passion, Blacklist could start sneaking their way right down from the high ground.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how this final zone has basically separated itself into 4 quadrants. Players in the northwest, you got Passion UA and Blacklist on inside and on top of the Down Beast on the northeast, Danish there on the southeast, and Trojans playing off that wall on the southwest right now. For Trojans, if they can bookend this first half, it would be amazing for them. Remember, they started the day 14th overall. A win here on top of the day could easily propel them into safety range in the top 8.
Great way to start off after ending it off on Storm Point. And before we make that transition into World's Edge, Passion UA playing off that low ground. See, Blacklist has jumped off from the high ground, utilizing that smoke to get into some extra cover here. And I like the repositioning that we're seeing here from Blacklist.
This is all about timing, just about trying to buy as much time as possible before you use your utility. They don't want to pop that Beast of the Hunt quite yet, and they will utilize the natural cover here and actually dodge a lot of damage. DMW, though, with the difficulty getting up, takes about 50% of his HP from the storm right now. Yuzako has popped that Beast of the Hunt. He isn't able to get a knock quite yet onto Passion UA. They're on the low ground now. It's going to be Hyarka, though, pushing forward. Now they find a knock onto one.
Wow.
I believe that's Trojan getting taken out by that Rolling Thunder. Huge for Blacklist International, stopping the momentum of Trojans. Players now charging forward. It's Blacklist right on top of Artie. Max Strafey to go down. This is a huge game now. It was a little bit slow comings for Blacklist, who were able to get Prio on top of Down Beast, but they are converting this position well, charging forward now to finish things off.
Our last 3 squads right here, and Blacklist are looking to take it all. JMW to be the nail in the coffin as Blacklist make a huge play to take the final game onto Storm Point. Big game here for Blacklist, and not too surprising considering the fact that they land in Down Beast, playing to their strength, and also further highlighting, Jamerson, what you were mentioning earlier when it comes to a lot of these EMEA Storm Point teams really playing into those POI strengths when they have circle advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been able to take a look at the stats between EMEA and North America. I haven't really been able to watch APAC North and APAC South, but here in EMEA in particular, they are able to convert that priority to zone, especially on the edges. When it goes to the deeper edges of the map, they are much better at converting that priority, like we saw coming out from Blacklist International. It was definitely a slower game for them overall, but having that Watson composition allows them to play off of econ. They're not really starving for shield cells, and they are able to conserve in their ammo. And so you got to see there in the end, really that coming out to play.
Yeah, and the gen that could help prevent other teams from utilizing the Bangalore Rolling Thunder from trying to boot you off the high ground is something that absolutely comes in clutch there, while they do keep up that poke pressure while they're hanging out on the high ground of Down Beast. But specifically those plays that they decided to make at the very end, between what you had mentioned, conserving what they had in store for them, the smoke nades before they drop down to cover their backs, before now repositioning around the other side of players building, all those micro plays played into a way bigger picture that allowed them to get as much KP as possible by the late game.
Yeah, that tempo play, it looked a little bit scary when they went to the back of that building, right? That was already containing a team, but by precious few extra little bit of seconds, right? So you can extend the duration of the Beast of the Hunt so that you can delay that Rolling Thunder a little bit longer until you know that it's going to get value there. It was massive for them, especially for a team coming off of slide down on top of Down Beast. You don't see that kind of play coming out often. So that was just mastery of their positioning, and they were really rewarded for it.
Yeah, and what's even great there too is I believe before taking a very dominating game 3, they were sitting in 17th overall, so very dominating here while we bring back Dia, you know, coming off of his break, being able to see all the action from behind the scenes, Dia. But that is crazy plays from Blacklist when we know they have to perform when they're sitting on the cusp, so that way they could be in the top 20 within EMEA.
It really was. I mean, super impressive. And oh, hello, Zane. How's it going? Oh. Well, I'm gone now, but I'll be back, and I'll be back with Zane eventually.
Don't worry, it's okay. We're getting everything set up right here, right now. While Dia is the voice in all of our ears, I want to hear some more, thoughts from Dia about how that last game really played out. Because especially, all right, here you go. Dia's back, being able to see how all that action really was able to break down to the very end for a team again that really needed to run, having a pretty good performance today, like they did yesterday.
Yeah, this is the second game as well, Jamerson, where you've emphasized the economy that Watson brings. Whereas last game, we saw that econ from a deficit where they were playing down a member, sitting in Cenote, and just basically waiting for teams hopefully not to push them and eventually getting pushed. This time, they didn't have to deal with any of that. They didn't lose any member by dropping off of the height, all stayed together, and I did really enjoy watching the way that they were able to convert, especially because dropping off of downed beast, dropping off the head, or the maw, as you both called it, can be really detrimental for a lot of squads. Many times, once you jump down from height, you do get absorbed by the wood shipper that the low ground becomes. But we'll get the chance to talk about some of these end games a little bit later. We've already teased it, or I suppose shown it. We've got Zane for an interview. So Zane, come on in here. Welcome, of course, to the ALGS broadcast. We're happy to have you here for Matchday 7.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
It has been really nice to watch you play. So now actually getting to talk to you is going to be really beneficial, because I've been wondering, we basically saw you take an entire split off of competitive Apex. And yet, when we look at your stats today, and when we look at your gameplay, you're clutching up, your top 5 in average kills, you are extremely high in like your average damage differential, how much you're dealing versus how much you're taking. And that's after basically taking a split away from comp. So I wanted to ask you how on earth you've managed to keep up the level of play that you had before you left to today, where you are still very competitive for top spots in terms of fraggers in EMEA.
Yeah, so I mean, for some of you may know, I took a really long break. So I stopped playing the game completely for 8 months, and I didn't play Controller. I didn't play Apex like at all. So I like got a call from Dawn. I was like, I didn't even plan to come back to Apex. And I was like, I might as well give it, another shot. I still wanna compete, still wanna win the LAN, still hungry. And I was just like, I don't have that much time to get back into form. So I just had to, I guess, give it my all. And I don't know, I'd say it's more of a mental thing. It's more like about what's in your head, because I'd say after not playing the game for so long, it didn't really leave me. Like, I guess the level I was at, it didn't really leave me that much. Obviously, it took a little while to get back into things, but only a couple weeks, and I'm good now. So yeah.
It's really interesting to hear your point of view on like what that has done to your mental, because sometimes you need to take a break so that way when you come back, you're very fresh, you're not burnt out. And I guess that goes hand in hand with being able to play alongside your former teammate Nasky now all together. I mean, the gang's back together basically at that point. And so you're basically able to play into that comfort, since Nasky already knew exactly how to trust you, but also what you would be looking out for. How has that been now actually playing with Nasky and now repping the Ninjas in Pajamas tag?
It's amazing. To be honest, it's a dream come true. Ninjas in Pajamas is like one of our dream orgs, and we couldn't be happier to represent them, honestly. Also as well, coming back to play with Nasky as well, he's been putting in a lot of work. As you could see from the last LAN, he was like, I think the top 3 best performing MNK player in the whole LAN. And like his improvement has been amazing, and I'm so proud of him. And I just wanted to give it another shot with him, and yeah, that's why. Just because I'm proud of his improvement, and I genuinely believe that we can win a LAN.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see if that comes to fruition, because right now you guys are performing extremely well. And since you guys are in, what I think top 7, top 8 overall, I want to get your insight onto the first 3 matches of the day. Now, we did have a swap. We started off on Storm Point. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final circles for the first 3 maps of the day. This one ended up going over to Cascade Falls. Can you walk us through this one, Zane?
Yeah, so We have Trojan, I think. Yeah, Trojan. All they have to do, just kill this team, and they basically win the game for free. All the teams on Cascade Building have to fight, and they have an easy 3P and an easy cleanup, which just gives them the free win.
Now, how often, like when you find yourself in this position, do you think the momentum gets away from you, right? Because I think one thing to note for Trojans is that they really did play this one extremely safe. They did not risk anything at all.
Yeah, they didn't overextend or anything. They just textbook, really. They just waited for everyone to fight, cleaned up the kills, and just, yeah, they didn't want to take any risks, which is fine, but they probably lost out on a lot of KP because of it. But I mean, they got the win at the end, so that's all that matters. They got the points.
But in game number 2 here, we got to see some amazing things out of FaZe Clan, and I don't think, anyone's really surprised, but it was this moment right here for Arctic really being able to survive. Can you walk us through what would be going through your mind if you're the cat player and you're stuck behind that wall?
Yeah, I mean, there was so many teams on that side of the zone, and they had a pretty tough walk-in. I think there was like maybe 3 or 4 teams just fighting like on that side of zone the entire time. So for, I think it was Cybercats, they walked up and they got shot in the side, and Arctic just survived for free right there. I don't know how they didn't die, to be honest. It's a miracle. I don't know.
And our final game of the day, this was Blacklist really utilizing that priority they had on top of Down Beast, and really want to talk about the Zenzo because I feel like they did so many amazing things here. Can you walk us through this game number 3 finish?
Yeah, this fight is super, super important. If they kill this team and drop low ground and kill them, they just have an easy third party and an easy win. They just close out the game for free. This textbook. Yeah. Really well played by Blacklist.
That drop down too, I think it was really impressive coming out from them, buying time, really delaying that Bangalore ultimate along with the Beast of the Hunt as long as possible. But of course, because they had Prio on the ring, they didn't get as much kill points overall. It was just in the end game there. It's still a 12-point game for them along with the 5. Are you surprised by the performances we've had so far here on Stormpoint?
To be honest, I'm surprised because a couple of teams that are supposed to be doing really good are not doing as good as I thought, which is good for us because, we need a few teams to do better. We're preying on a few downfalls today. That's for sure.
I believe it. Playing over the leaderboards, it can be tough. It can be even stressful watching match days that you're not playing. With Blacklist International taking the lead that last game, we of course have the bottom of the leaderboard that will have a bit of a better chance to move over onto perhaps World's Edge and see what they can do there. However, I have an important question for you, Zane. It's one I haven't asked yet, and one that I know the audience is dying to know. I hear you've got a passionate fan in the background. I don't know if you can hear it through your headphones, but I have to ask what your dog's name is. Yeah.
Well, it's not my dog, but it's my girlfriend's dog, and his name's Max. He's a bit young, I think 4 months old. He's just in the background, just barking away.
Very cute. Very cute. I request a picture. It can be posted via Twitter. And if you guys want to follow, if you guys want to follow Zane, maybe get some dog of girlfriend pictures. You can follow Zane at Zane FPS. Zane, it has been wonderful to have you for the halftime show. You are honestly very nice to talk to, very easy to talk to, and good luck in the rest of your games. Final round robin.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, bye. See ya.
All right then. Well, Vicky Jamerson, it is on with the show. However, I should say that with match 4 coming up, we've talked about that transition to World's Edge. Now, Jamerson, this is where I want to talk to you a little bit about the POI draft and what you're seeing prioritized specifically when we move on to World's Edge and how that's working out.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I have to highly characterize EMEA as priority dependent, right? And so when we get those skyhook zones, when we get the stack zones, anything on the high edges of the map, that teams that do have that priority rotate into it end up faring better. So if you're looking at, I think, bog standard drafts coming out from them, I'm not surprised whatsoever by what's being prioritized by our EMEA teams. Going for that Skyhook West, I think even across region Skyhook West, one of the highest pick rates overall.
It's so wild to see. And I mean, it makes sense. Sky West, of course, inherits Trials as well as a great edge POI. But Vicky, we've seen teams have some mixed results from Sky West. Sometimes you pick it early and maybe it doesn't align with your play style, all of a sudden resulting in a lower point average for Sky West than you might otherwise have looked for.
And it's something that has to do with the amount of teams banking on that skyhook circle too, with how frequent we've seen them. But things have been changing up, I feel like, with the way that these circles have been pulling. No surprise that Full English, with their #1 seed pick, they were able to actually claim Sky West, but trying to see how they can work that into their overall results, because they definitely need to have that come up that we know that they're capable of. But going hand in hand, we already know the squads that have no issue trying to isolate some of the members that do land in Sky West, maybe stragglers that try to prioritize going into Trials in the middle of those rotates.
You know, it's really interesting watching the way that when the zone does end up pulling away from places like Sky West, how many other spaces on the map are empty. A lot of times we'll have some teams going towards Epicenter, but very rarely do we get teams that drop over by Fragment or even Dome. Those two end up being left largely unused, despite the fact that South Zones really used to be a thing, Chambers. And like, we used to be talking about how the zone's always going south, and yet it was only really true yesterday in EMEA.
Yeah, yesterday was definitely an anomaly because we've been basically seeing a lot of the strength of the polls going over towards Overlook, No Name, and surprisingly enough, Fragment East, or well, I guess just Fragment now, along with the myriad of Skyhook zones. And so I think we were really treated to what we got yesterday. We got the launch site, the Big Mod Geyser Choke ending happened as well, and I can't remember the third one, but it was definitely a nice mix-up from what we've been getting throughout the rest of the Pro League split too.
And with the perhaps shift in zones that we're looking at next patch, or the fact that they've readjusted probabilities to be evenly distributed throughout the quadrants of the map, Vicky, we may even see this impact the way that teams choose to land, perhaps moving away from places that the zone normally pulls, and with the ideally more balanced approach of the zones, being able to say, all right, well, maybe this POI fits our play style better, so we're going to prioritize that over trying to predict the ring.
Yeah, actually, when you talk about teams like that, I think about teams like Aurora, who are landing in Thermal Station. They had 16th pick, so obviously they weren't able to get that #1 pick that we saw Full English get, as they're sitting in 27th. But with the way that Aurora have been playing and Rugby popping off, Hardeki shoes, those are pretty big shoes to fill in, and Rugby's definitely been able to perform there so far with the Lifeline pick. Now, can it go hand in hand here on World's Edge as they make that transition and rotate through a POL like Thermal, depending on how these circles pull? Because if we do pull towards the south side like we did see yesterday, that it would work amazingly for a team like Aurora that we highlighted at the very beginning of the top of the show that needs to perform today.
Looking at the series results, Trojan currently lead the pack after, so far, today's games. There is still the chance, as we keep telling you, that all of this will turn on its head and we could see a totally different result by the end of the day. Trojan, who performed 14th in the last time these two groups met, may still fall a little bit further down the leaderboard. Jamerson, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you take a quick break as we prepare for match number 4. And Vicky, you and I could keep talking about the way that the standings are changing, perhaps not, since yesterday in the match day 6, we ended up getting our rematch standings twisted up more than a schnitzel.
It's just, it goes back into Schnitzel. Honestly, maybe some of these teams may be hungry. Zane definitely looked hungry when we were talking to him earlier on. But looking at what these teams have changed up between now that we're seeing them perform, with Stormpoint being the beginning map for our first 3 games, versus what we saw prior when we had first opened up with World's Edge. I highlighted Aurora before, and I got to talk about them again because I believe they had finished in 15th place overall at the end of that day. Already looking a lot better to start off their day here on Storm Point, seeing if they could try to work that into some of the changes in that circle that we've been seeing thus far. But also specifically, if we could catch some of these stragglers trying to go for the Evil Harvester that we've seen before, or we take a look at the World's Edge draft. We keep talking about it, Dia, but now it's time to see where all of our teams in this lobby are going to be landing.
The Full English, still with an iconic logo. Gotta give love to that every once in a while. Picking up Sky West is something we've been looking at for a while. Really standing out, however, is Trojan, who we were just talking about, who have gone Siphon as well. This is an uncontested Lava Siphon drop, an extraordinarily powerful POI when we're on World's Edge.
actually big here too when it comes to those rotates that you have there. Monument going in right here too. Aurora, like we mentioned, thermal station. Phase landing over by Overlook, something else that we saw very commonly in the very first half of these end circles for the first split of Pro League here. Even looking all the way back to Black actually to see what they could be doing here. And Go Next, landing and Survey going to be going for those quick rotates, something that we've been seeing very often, of course, considering that Kashira is very quick when it comes to where these circle pulls are going to be ending up on.
It's nice to have a central POI, and the nice thing about Survey is that you often inherit Epicenter as well, so you're able to hit up both technical POIs for a greater chance at Beacon. However, in this case, that's not true. 3D Max have chosen to land over at Epicenter, which could cause some interesting butting of heads between 3D Max and Go Next. Always a chance, and I dare say the expectation that this will happen, but it will be very Ring Console Survey Beacon spawn dependent. And so often is that the case for EMEA.
And what's great that we're able to see now is the diversity of certain legend picks slotted in for that third. We're gonna have the traditional, of course, Bloodhound Bangalore, as the patch notes have not come into place. That'll be happening later on this week. But seeing the Pathy coming out still for Cybercats, we're gonna pretend like we didn't see what happened in that last game. Pathy was playing his own game in that case, but Vex also taking a page out of their book with Denze being on that Pathy, because we know that Pathy could be able to scan ring consoles too once he gets those blue Evo shields, which is going to be a priority for teams that rely on that first perk here.
And as Pathfinder sort of rockets up in priority, we will get our first look at how that plays out in Match Day 7 for our first game on World's Edge. Blacklist International going to be starting things off in Stacks, a very familiar POI to them, as even before the POI draft was introduced, this is where they were landing. In this particular case, I really like it because it's going to give them a lot of freedom, early access to zone if they want it, but I'm looking at Dome and thinking, hey, second survey beacon, maybe you're rotating into launch site, that's looking pretty tasty.
Especially with the extra Evo charge that you could go for, even better here. And they have the Evo Harvester to their south, something that Big Mod, looking at players, don't have direct access to unless they want to try to go and commit towards the Evo Harvester by that bridge, which I'm not expecting right now. But looking at where the circle is going to be pulling, Dia, you know that Apex Warlords already getting ahead of the curve, being on the Monument side, but something that they don't have, I believe, is because Cybercats were right on top of that survey beacon. Okay, so they do actually have that ring console right there. Cybercats were equally able to get that survey beacon information, not the ring console, but that is something that Apex Warlords are going to capitalize off of.
And you can use this to follow through, right? You get a bit of a survey beacon hit, and you can use that to then find out who's near a ring console. Can I have access to it? It looks like that's what Cybercats are doing, keeping their eyes, of course, on Apex Warlords. I want to draw attention to the ring since we did manage to see it. This is a really difficult ring to play, Vicky. We've actually got 3D Max basically dead in the center of it right now as they make their rotation, but actually holding on to a position like this is so difficult. They do have the benefit, 3D Max do, of having Watson, and that'll help out some, but even so, a lot of teams are going to be rotating into your zone this way, whether it be from Landslide, Countdown, Monument, or even Skyhook East.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be caught in that choke early on in the game. I'm in danger, even with the Watson. Like you mentioned, you know so many teams are going to be rotating in this direction here, while players are already feeling the heat from Trojan, who are trying to look out for the rotates out of Big Mod. As they exit out of the north side of Lava Siphon, they already had information, and they also have the Evo Shield advantage. Remember, we were talking about how players didn't have access to that Evo Harvester. Well, it's because Trojan had gotten there first to prioritize their rotate and deny that from players.
And players under quite a bit of pressure here as well. They are leaning towards the bottom of the leaderboards. They're not quite bottom 10 in the league just yet, but they're sitting at around 18th right now. And the last time these two groups played each other, players got 19th place, which would not do them any favors standing-wise. So they really have to have a good World's Edge performance, not get caught out by Trojan. And in a ring like this, again, that is going to be very challenging. Taking a look at how everyone else is rotating in, 3D Max will be stopping and smelling the flowers along the way, maybe hopefully getting a few of the Ravens that Bloodhound will drop, because that's going to be your only inkling as to who the biggest threat is to you. Otherwise, Watson fences and a quick gen are all that you've really got defensively.
Yeah, they had to put themselves in a situation like this with the Evil Harvester being right here, but to deny that from teams like Vex, as you can see by the choke, from trying to claim that Evil Harvester for themselves. Denzé, though, gets destroyed! The 30-30 shots coming in from EQ, gonna be able to find that first knock, and the rest of Vex, they weren't separated. They were gonna trust to see if he was able to get that Evil Harvester just secretly, but 3D Max, they were ready for him.
And immediately jumping up here, 3D Max have given up their position from previously. They are trusting that no one will move in behind them to an early spot, but they're doing this in order to find Thirst, in order to secure some KP, and it's a risk that 3D Max did not need to take.
I do like the attempt on trying to hold a split positioning here, so that way they can keep up the pressure, maybe see if they have the opportunity to get the reset. But after that dirty onto Denzé, Clemmy shimmy shading his way around the bullets. Is gonna have to now back up and see what they really have to work with. They even have the information on where that next circle is pulling, but you can imagine the teams coming in from Skyhook, full English like we highlighted earlier. Na'Vi, who decided to rotate away from Lava into now Skyhook, trailing right behind full English, will make their appearance soon.
And we talked about rotations into 3D Max's position from Sky East. It's already happening, as you say, with Atlas. You saw their Havoc shots. Forbidden, unfortunately, don't get to make it even to the zone as they get taken out much too early on. Nessie doing themselves some favors as they do desperately need the points at this stage of the game. Nessie, again, one of those squads that really needs to climb up the leaderboards. I would say even more so than players.
Definitely a team that we know individually these players have the capability here, but have just not really been able to find any cohesive synergy. As you can take a look at the fact that they're not only going to have to bunker down here, but expect teams like Eternal, players who are going to be rotating from that south side of that circle, exiting out of Lava Siphon, teams like Aurora coming out of Thermal Station, who've been able to wrap beyond Tree. They had a ring console survey beacon as well to actually work into the way that they want to rotate through Harvester. But you can take a look at all the other squads, Dio, that have taken their time. Now Trojan still by Overlook, while Gaming Gladiators have now made their move over to that north side by Epi.
Really different take when we're talking about Trojans rotate, and the fact that playing out of Siphon, they've chosen to go into Overlook and really commit to hard edge. It's not what the POI is known for with its relatively central position, especially in a ring like this, that while it is technically northwest, is only slightly northwest. Eternal currently going through the center of the map, have been really committing to hard edge play all day, and have found Aurora no better team to test your chops up against.
And Eternal, they have the height right now here too. As Aurora just call it quits for right now to reposition over on the backside of Harvester, making sure that no other team is within the vicinity to try to third party, because that is something that Blacklist International can easily do, as they've now tried to prioritize information over on top of Lava Siphon. We know that I believe there was a ring console right there too, so now Aurora forced to backtrack, have to give up the opportunity to try to get the ring console info, and now are going to try to see if maybe they could wrap around north side of Lava Siphon instead.
I'm going to go back in this game and look just at Trojan's path. They go all the way from Siphon to Overlook, basically halfway back to Siphon, and are going to approach from the south side. This will put Trojan right next to Nessie, but also both squads in the path of Aurora, Blacklist International, and Eternal, as all three of those teams will have to move up the choke and into the monument surrounding area.
It's going to be hot here, too, after the action that we saw from 3D Max holding those two chokes, denying the rotate opportunity from the teams that have to rotate from Skyhook and Countdown. Wondering if Vex were able to get that reset here, too, because that would have been absolutely huge if they were able to get that res here. Well, 3D Max still on blue Evos, but still a good call to deny the Evil Harvester to their backs from other teams, while still putting in the pressure and being the only team, I believe, to be running the crypto in a very heavy Watson team comp lobby.
We're really putting this to the test, right? When a Watson rotates into a zone like this early, typically you'll see them play under the bridge, which we actually are getting. But with 3D Max, they're pioneering a different way, perhaps, of playing Apex Legends in EMEA. We've recently seen a lot of teams give up the choke early, try and take it late, where of course it can be a game-winning position. The very fact that they're letting this pass them, and that they're committing to holding this area of the map with Cats on the low ground looking up at them, perhaps a more traditional approach, is going to be interesting. And whether 3D Max succeed in this game or not is likely going to change the landscape of how you play these rings in EMEA.
And in the EMP gear too coming out, especially if you see a catwalk coming in, just putting in some extra pressure when they try to force out some of these rotates. We're gonna have to see, well, teams like Gaming Gladiators try to fight off for that tunnel control from Na'Vi, and look who's waiting for them on the mouth of that tunnel is Vex. So they're gonna get gate kept no matter what. So Na'Vi now forced to make a roundabout rotation, taking a lot of the circle pressure.
This is going to test Vex's game knowledge as well, their real ability to track variables. Since Na'Vi have given up the fight with Gaming Gladiators, Vex now have to know that there is a team wrapping around on them. They haven't seen kills go down in the feed just yet, and while they play defense on Gaming Gladiators, Vex cannot forget about their backsides.
And they were able to get Denze back. This is so huge. Look at the painting of Watson fences that are just displayed here. It'd be quite a shame if suddenly 3D Matches came in with a crypto EMP and did all this, but won't be happening anytime soon while Babylons is able to get that crack with a charged up Sentinel.
Delay Gaming Gladiators for now. Uncertain about the utility that Gaming Gladiators have. If you have an evac, then this is not your only option. Gaming Gladiators still have some time to rotate around the other side of the zone. If they don't have an evac, all of a sudden, looks like Vex are getting run at, and they're not the only ones. Na'Vi, who have just made their way in from zone, are currently running an Eternal with not much of a choice. There's not too much cover that they've got here, although with Tyler on an off angle, it's Eternal that have suffered the first loss.
Oh, they could capitalize off of this, especially since they had to take a huge chunk out of their own meds trying to traverse through that circle. I mean, it was only round 2, so not too bad here. While Vex try to capitalize, they look at the catwalk, which is displayed right in front of them. Babylon's taking a nice off angle, though, with the Havoc. No energy mag needed, no turbocharger, but a little too overzealous with only Babylon stuck and alive here. Can he pull this off as they play around the knockdown shield?
No way.
Oh, no.
Sentinel shot has to connect. Babylon's doesn't clutch it. Vex. What a catastrophe in the north side of zone.
No way, he was one. That was crazy. All the fighting has not stopped. Eternal gets sent right back to the lobby as Na'Vi fought their way not only out of the circle, but from the low ground to get on top of the sniper tower.
Vicky, what is happening? The two teams that should have been gatekept, Na'Vi and Gaming Gladiators, have both won their individual fights. And you know what this means? It means they're going to clash again. Gaming Gladiators are going to come through this tunnel, and they're going to come out to the other side going, Na'Vi, are you serious? We have to engage with you once more here?
Ring around the rosy on the outskirts of Skyhook here, apparently, between Gaming Gladiators and Na'Vi. Well, Na'Vi are so fixated on Aurora, as you can see right here. Aurora looking to see and make the decision whether do they want to commit to rotating from the north side of landside for that next circle. They probably have the information already with the ring beacon being right there. Or do they try to commit through the tunnel towards Nessie? That's going to be the question here. Well, 3D Max had predicted where the circle was pulling from the very beginning, Dia.
Not to be biased, but I do really like the Nessie spot. If you're able to take this away, south side of a monument zone is really good. Players are trying to control the north side, and it looks like they are doing so just fine. This is with the help of Atlas, who are holding at Grandma's house. Zanya's able to put out a lot of pressure, and of course, you've got Go Next sandwiched in between these two. Nobody really having to take a full-on engagement just yet, but every squad inching closer to their enemies and thus destruction.
With all the teams having to exit out of Monument here. FaZe just trying to stay alive. Danish on the other side. Blacklist International that we saw earlier on here too, having the Evo Shield advantage, but stuck in the circle. Can Uchaku make it? Yes, he can. Sliding right in time to pop this medkit, while Hyarka has got other plans. Nice pressure coming in here with the Havoc. FaZe get eliminated on the outskirts of this building. They were sharing some of this space with Blacklist. We're just looking at them make that rotate.
It's nice that Blacklist were able to clear this up so quickly as well. Moving in from stacks, they just don't have a lot of time to adapt. Every time you move into another ring, you're one of the last squads there. Blacklist International know it, and it means that their fights have to be smooth and efficient, and that means, Vicky, that ults are a real priority for them. Taking a look at the opposite side of ring, however, Gaming Gladiators are once again jumping on top of Na'Vi, who have already lost one. Lifeline Res does help them out, but it should be the Gaming Gladiators coming out on top of this. Lufka, last swing through with the Hemlock, doesn't can't quite make it work, can't find a shield swap, and still has some backup from their friends. Aurora will fall, as do Na'Vi in the fight for Sniper Tower.
Oh, and Gaiman Gladiators are still alive here too, hanging out on the very top after the action that we saw before. It was just a matter of time to say hasta la vista to Na'Vi, the last one alive. But it was the fact that the two evac towers coming in, what a mess. But to also get overly aggressive to prevent the Aurora comp strat from working with the Lifeline Reds on the Gold Evo.
Players in another engagement. They've already lost one. This is not looking good as Fit has to swing through these white knockdown shields and make a difference. No Havoc, only Hemlock cannot hit the bursts and ultimately will fall. The full English take the fight, but with no time left to res, Phoenix has got to head for the hills.
Oh, no, he was running like a chicken with his head cut off. He couldn't even go for the shield while the circle was closing in. He didn't even look like he had any meds there, too. He didn't have a bat. Atlas was also waiting for him right on the outskirts. Free KP here while Nessia are in the best spot on this circle pool here. Catwall has been called in for the rotate from Atlas as Passion in the UA steers them down.
Still a lot of space available to play in Monument. A team like Blacklist should be all right. In fact, I would say they don't need to force this fight, and yet they're doing it anyway. With Hyarka now fallen, though, some other squads have started to pay attention, and Hyarka's full thirst is going to make this even harder for Blacklist as the zone closes in. This may be their last couple of seconds of gameplay. Blacklist do go down. Danish, who swung to finish him off, will fall as well, and it's just Young Hong Kong left in Monument with very little safety, but fortunately a reinforced door from beyond the grave.
He can't catch a break, even from the window in the distance. I believe it was Nessie trying to take some shots at the lone survivor that is Danish right now. Cybercats with the perfect timing on that third party. And look who has height. Gaming Gladiators have rotated out of the choke here to meet up right behind Passion UA on the low ground.
And no matter what you're doing, nobody seems to be able to escape Gaiman Gladiators. They have left a trail of bodies like breadcrumbs from Hansel and Gretel. Gaiman Gladiators slew 3D Max, have height on Passion. Their one big problem is Nessie, that singular squad that, as you called out, has the next zone, has managed to hold on to a powerful position overlooking Monument. It's Gaiman Gladiators and Nessie that will have to fight for control of the high ground.
Nessie are going to be able to also take some free shots here once these squads are forced to funnel into their line of sight unless they work off of the natural cover. That is those train tracks playing off that low ground here. Noises with the pings and only 2 arrows left in the bow check. See what he could do here. Lackluster ammunition. They see the fighting. See Danish still trying to take some shots at Cybercats, holding on for dear life with 5 squads remaining, and Passion UA also looking at Cybercats here too.
You got to use this to finish off one person, a singular knock with a bow check headshot. That'll be enough to keep Nessie safe. What's concerning me is that Nessie are not looking up. In fact, they're committing down with 4 squads left. Danish will fall. Nessie play for points, not for the win. Commit to the low ground and lose Noises in the process. Now, with just 2 members left, they continue to commit. Cracked goes into this. Cybercats are going to fall. Passion UA are on the low ground, but you know what this means, Vicky. It means that the Titans, Gaiman Gladiators, are alone on the high ground.
And that's just gonna breathe a free W here at this point. Just a free walk-in for Gaiman Gladiators to capitalize as they now take a split position to sandwich Passion UA. Only a matter of time as Gaiman Gladiators are your Game 4 winners. Free walk-in here for GG as Nessie decided to just fully ape Cybercats onto that low ground, just allowing an open green light for Passion to then walk into their north, sandwich them, clean up what was left, and Gaiman Gladiators were the only team uncontested in that final circle deal.
There is no more appropriate name for them than the Gladiators, because in these rings, they were finding ways and situations where there was no escape from them. You were really trapped, as Vex were, in a tunnel in the ring with the Gaiman Gladiators. When they went over to Sniper Tower, everyone was trapped in the Sniper Tower with Gaiman Gladiators, and when it came to coexisting with them, nobody in the end game would do it. Nessie gave up their high ground, forfeiting it to GG, knowing that a squad like that, you simply don't fight for the high ground when you can go for KP on the low ground instead.
And that's with them coming out of Climatizer there too. So they were able to make that roundabout rotate while also leveling up their Evil Shields, prioritizing the Evil Harvester pathing so that way they could approach into that north side if they have to go through that choke with a better Evil Shield, but even working out better for them without them getting gate kept by Vexed in that fight that we saw by the tunnel of Skyhook. They still were able to get more KP once they were able to start rotating and then contest the action that we saw between Aurora and Na'Vi.
Think back on how incredibly close we were to not seeing this game. Because as you talk about the fight with Vex, that came down to whether you hit a Sentinel shot or not for maybe 50 flesh health. That is one bullet away from it being a completely different game, from Vex emerging from the tunnel instead and involving themselves in the Aurora Na'Vi fight, to then contesting 3D Max, who held the high ground for a very long time. And I want to give credit here. 3D Max actually played things very well. It is to no fault of their own that they couldn't stop the game in Gladiators.
Yeah, it was very difficult there too, especially when a lot of other teams funneled into their line of sight. They wanted to capitalize off of any KP that they could hold, especially with the pressure that they were putting down to so many teams that were trying to fight their way out of Monument. We saw the chaos at the very end. We saw the solo that was Danish that was left behind, young Hong Kong himself, before eventually he was taken out and Cybercats were able to just play off the low ground. Salute all around for the attempt from Danish, but even better to see a nice explosive game from the Gaming Gladiators, finishing off with 12 KP and the dub.
What a riveting match. As you say, 24 points after their first game on World's Edge is a huge step up. And Passion UA right behind this, I don't want to ignore either. You had actually called out Passion UA for their use of crypto to have an unorthodox composition from a low ground spot, making it to second place, and with 7 KP, that's the critical part of it, is a really good look for a roster that has been on a high run recently.
It's also nice to note, by the way, that Gaming Gladiators, in game number 1, they finished in 6. Game 2, we saw them get a 3rd place placement, and now being able to take the dub on World's Edge shows how well-rounded this squad is. Now looking at the second page here, all the way down to even Na'Vi, falling down in 13th, all because of that fight that happened to the north side of Landside, closer to that sniper building.
And I'm going to call out a notable absence from our bottom 10 squads here. Nessie, who had a fantastic game. They have struggled on Storm Point to really put up numbers. However, now that we've made the transition to World's Edge, they actually play the macro from this zone really well, uncontested by other teams, and as a result, will inch themselves ever closer to top 10. You can actually spot Nessie right now in our overall series results, sitting in 12th. The Gaming Gladiators having taken the lead with 42 points.
Huge with the 10 KP that they're able to accumulate over the course of this series alone, but also nice to highlight their rotate from Landside to immediately recognize the situation and where that circle was going to be pulling, and then also play King of the Hill on top of those train tracks to deny that rotate opportunity from the other squads that would have to rotate from the Harvester side of the choke that would lead into Monument Dia.
There was so many odd rotations here as well. We talked about Trojans being one, and again, gonna touch on it. Moving out of Siphon, going to Overlook. Everybody has slightly different reads on exactly how they want to play these games. And now that we're on World's Edge, one of the most studied maps in competitive Apex, we're really seeing the mad scientists come out all over EMEA. It's been 4 games of wonder. We've got 2 more left on World's Edge, but before that, we're gonna hit a quick break.
Welcome back, everyone. Something about seeing Revenant cosplaying as Conduit has just got me feeling a type of way here, Jamerson. It's been enjoyable to see the different legends, as our legends are going to be swapping each other's roles here, maybe in terms of their skin. But that's something to definitely look forward to here, as we just saw such an explosive game here from Diving Gladiators. The fight for the high ground. Look at the double evac tower just for them to jump and time this fight perfectly, coming out on top between the Na'Vi versus Aurora fight.
Yeah, that entire game, it was all about Gladiators finding the timing, finding the openings. They are extremely patient with this. They were actually watching this fight for a good 15-20 seconds before they made their move. They were waiting for that go signal where they see the trades and they have the timing to go in. Similar story happened here as they were rotating in from that choke point. Now, I believe 3D Max was holding that northern high ground against, I forget which squad, but they found that opening again to go for the third party. They were the third party kings here. Nessie deciding to take this swing down onto the low ground was a little bit surprising to me. I feel like they might have wanted to take that opportunity to try and go for that 50-50 up against GG on the other side of this one, but I don't fault them at all whatsoever. This was their biggest scoring game for Nessie. Having that priority, coming out from Landslide and taking that western side of Monument along the rocks was a great play for them, ultimately netting them both 14 points.
Yeah, honestly, that also comes to show you the type of fights that Nessie are aware of, which ones they can take and which ones they shouldn't there, and they wanted to play for the KP at that point. As we now take a look at game number 5, Jamerson, where a lot of our squads have now seen where they're situated in after the last 4 games that we just witnessed. I mean, Gladiators, a team that was within the top 3 the last time we saw these two groups face off against each other, now trying to claw their way right back to stay as consistent as possible. We saw they landed over by Climatizer, and they had no issue trying to rotate over from that northern side closer to Skyhook.
Yeah, speaking more about Gaming Gladiators, the first time in round number 1 that A faced off against B, they ended up with first place. The second time, you mentioned it, right? They were in the top 4. They were 4th overall, but the thing is, in round number 2, it was extremely close in the top 5. I believe they were only about 4 points off from first place. So there was a world where if they had converted one extra game, Gaming Gladiators would have actually gotten the back-to-back in this group-to-group head-off. Taking a look at our first ring, though, we're getting another northern pull. This time, not going over towards Monument, but more over towards Skyhook and Survey Camp.
Which actually could benefit Diving Gladiators again here, because they have a ring console right next door to them. They obviously have that replicator too, so that way they could get some quick meds before they start rotating here. But also while noting that 3D Max are a type of team that immediately starts rotating out of Epi, as Epi does have lackluster loot, they could try to capitalize off of this and immediately try to get a northern circle positioning where Go Next is currently sitting in.
Yeah, I can't imagine any other team really is able to bully them out of this spot. I don't know if they want to take the early fight up against Go Next, but there is a world where they can. Right now, though, it looks like FaZe Clan moving in a little bit early there, up towards that Climatizer side. But speaking of early action, Zerafer and company have to back off. 3D Max might get caught out here.
Max trying to cut them off when it comes to Apex Warlords, rotating from Monument already, and we know that Cybercats lands over by Frag East already with the quick rotate to try to know exactly where the circle may be pulling. I believe there was a ring console in Frag East that they could capitalize off of, and 3D Max now seeing where that circle could potentially be moving, already making their move to get into their final circle positioning.
Yeah, it looks like the pings are going down to try and take the train tracks there, which with the Watson you definitely want to play off of. Another position that you can play is just the tunnel exit out of that train yard, but oh my goodness, they are getting lit up as the Apex Warlords do not want to give up on this chase right now. Vex might actually play spoiler on this rotate now as they are looking to get involved. Problem here with these early fights is that everyone's still sitting on whites, so it's very easy to go down here. As you can see, Vex will be the beneficiaries of that, taking out one more. Vex, though, backing away into the train tunnels, might have given up positioning here. They've got to be careful as they approach this tunnel now, because teams come Skyhook, you can have GG coming in. This is very scary, to say the least.
3D Max, our French or just cannot take a break either. I saw Go Next in the feed also being able to get a knock of their own, so only leaving 3D Max currently as a solo, while the fighting has not stopped. Apex Warlords finally getting out of Monument side here and immediately running right into Forbidden by that choke that would lead into Grandma's house.
Ooh, Apex Warlords were actually able to catch out one player of Forbidden, who have been having a rough day overall. And honestly, I wanted to see more. I was hoping, you know, that the players from Passion would find a little bit more success with the swaps that we've been seeing out of them. But for Forbidden Gaming, they are able to at least hold up inside the vault tunnel. But for how long? It looks like Apex Warlords might be looking to try and push in. On the northern side of the map, though, Gaming Gladiators, having that priority, are going to be able to move their way on over towards that respawn valley over here on the northern side of the tracks.
This is probably one of the best spots that Gaming Gladiators could be holding right now. We were talking about it before, where Go Next were looking to eye this spot, have now ended up rotating into perhaps a building over by Survey. So playing into their strengths, bunkering down here. But even better for Gaming, that they are very not... When it comes to trying to take some of these fights and gatekeep these squads, they're in a very good position to still secure KP without having to overextend and give up this spot.
Yeah, this one is definitely a position that you're playing for Zone 4, hoping kills come your way, because we know that most of the rotations are coming from the south side. That's where all the fights are taking place at the very least. So I think for Gaming Gladiators, with that 24 point game that they got in game number 4, along with the consistent points that they were getting even on Storm Point, I think it was averaging something like 6 points a game. They need another similar performance. And then in game number 6, they don't have to have a huge standout performance to stay remain up top. So there are many ways for them to play it. And I think taking the safer route is definitely the better option here.
Ooh. Trying to play that safe here while we take a look at Go Next. Definitely are just going to be sitting pretty here for the next 2 zones. They already have the information on where that next circle is going to be pulling. As you can see on their mini map here, FaZe also going to try to replicate that on the other side of Survey. Only thing is, FaZe is closer over to that beacon. Don't expect them to be able to get that for free with Go Next being right there, and Gaming Gladiators obviously overlooking them from a slight lip of high ground. Or more of these squads with Apex Warlords, they had rotated away from Monument, saw the action happening between themselves and 3D Max, said they did not want to get involved in that, and ended up quickly rotating to get even more loot over from the Skyhook south side.
Yeah, I think they were trying to chase after Forbidden Gaming. Remember, they were the 2 men that played inside the vault tunnel, but Forbidden were able to utilize the natural terrain of Skyhook to get deeper in and avoid that fight. I don't think they were able to pick up the banner, unfortunately, or go for that rest. Cybercats, though, finding themselves in a small engagement over here at Countdown. As they back away from this one, it's going to be Passion UA bullying them back just a little bit. Both these teams, they'll have plenty of time to play off of. They don't really need to force this issue. With that ring console inside of Lava Fissure, you can definitely try and play off of that one. So Passion UA getting the positioning on that will help them out immensely here.
Look at what Aurora's got to work with here, too. Taking their time with the Evil Harvesters out of their thermal station rotate, who've been able to already get the info that they need there, too. With the Lifeline already going to be able to also start prioritizing going through Landslide. They'll be right in front of Cybercats with Passion UA slowly trailing behind them. We know that there's a balloon over by Lava Fissure, so they can close in that distance quickly after hearing the fighting that is going on between Aurora and Cybercats.
So Passion UA were able to take that time to go ahead and pick up that ring console. They know this one is going up towards that survey camp side. Now the question is, will Cybercats allow them to hit the survey beacon? And if they don't, then Passion UA will have a difficult rotate out. You can see Cybercats actually getting very aggressive now, forcing Passion UA down to the eastern side. But taking a better look at the ring on the north side, you can see why Gaming Gladiators wanted to take that respawn a beacon angle there at the top of the tracks. FaZe also playing off the rocks on the north side of Survey Camp. Actually, one of the best spots really for a ring pull like this, but they are starting to get pinched. Players coming in from the northeast. You got Gaming Gladiators looking to third party, who they showed in game number 4 how incredibly deft they are at finding those openings in the third party fights. So FaZe do have to be careful. For Na'Vi, though, looks like there's going to be another roundabout rotate for them coming outside. No strangers whatsoever to this rotate down to the countdown area.
Almost getting a sense of deja vu out here, because once they start committing to this rotate through countdown, we already know who's ahead of them after they took an evac tower out of Landslide, and it is Aurora waiting at the mouth of the tunnel. Now currently the fighting has not stopped over here by Skyhook. Full English are a neighboring Nessie and Apex Warlords looking down here at Forbidden, who are in front of them without Nessie, letting them get this rotate for free. They're going to be able to put in some pressure here.
They want this KP. They need this KP for Apex Warlords to catch up here in the second half. And have the best of performances so far on Storm Point here with the final 2 games now. They know that every last point counts. But now the opportunity is actually getting away from them. You can see that a lot of teams did stick around in Skyhook at the very least. Na'Vi, though, continuing to make their move now. You know that they were kind of mirroring Cybercats in a way, along with Passion UA, that were playing off of Lava Fissure here. So they are keeping their wits about them, keeping an eye on their back currently. But for the time being, finding no action whatsoever. Back on board with Cybercats, though, over here by the landslide area. They are currently getting mirrored now by Danish, looking to gatekeep them.
Danish was looking to maybe see if they could get any info out of landslide, but even better though for Na'Vi to see if Cybercats is in a pinch position. They could get some free KP here. They're not going to get gate kept, but you have to look out for Aurora, who are waiting by the choke, exiting out of Countdown through Monument. So Cybercats, see if Wrenches could get the setup here on the zip. Look at the shots being taken here too. From inside of that circle by the edge, it's going to be Na'Vi looking at Danish by landslide.
There we go. Na'Vi finally spot them out. Cybercats were able to move up the western edge basically for free here, but the back shots from Aurora gonna force kind of behind cover, and that was the biggest opportunity for Na'Vi to really try and punish Cybercats. But because of the intervention of Aurora, it looks like Cybercats will be able to get free move through Countdown and make their way on up. But over here on the northeast side, Epicenter is going to be the center of action right now, as Blacklist International are trying their best to survive. Yuzako getting that reset, needs to be able to hit that bat at the very least, as JMW holds the angle for now. Forbidden ultimately do go down there on the northern side of the map, as it's Trojans looking to get aggressive, but they've lost out on Adnam. They need a reset and they back away. It's going to be Blacklist International with a full reset from the inside.
It's the fact that this was being a 3-way fight with 3D Max trying to get the res eventually here too, so that way they don't play that out as a solo, with Blacklist International playing on the inside and Trojan now looking to get the res themselves. Scan for scan here as Blacklist fully reset, now try to swing on and capitalize off of them being incredibly weak. They were unable to fully heal up, and now Blacklist having to look onto the other side. Havocs from both directions, seeing that the circle is closing in less than 40 seconds. They have to make sure that they don't get gate kept here. Another team coming in from the back as 3D Max were able to fully recover.
Oh man, the position is just changing back and forth between these 3 teams. Now 3D Max, the team that has the initiative here. They are going for the reset though to get Kizaron back on up. They get the ring to their back fairly shortly here. The Beast in the Hunt is getting popped. Now it's Aurora coming in for the 4th party.
Oh, for the free KP here too, though. Night Impulse feels the pressure, but they were so low as Oirain now slides in and is a nail in the coffin for 3D Max. 15 squads left, but talk about timing on that fight presence from Aurora.
Very isolated for them. They understood. They got a beautiful scan onto all the teams there, essentially. And so it was very easy for them to navigate. But now they have to navigate this rotate up north. You can see that Eternal are looking to try and gatekeep them here. But there should be enough coverage for Aurora to get in safely. We'll see in just a moment. Cybercats have basically worked their way back through Skyhook. Now they do have someone shooting from behind them. That's going to be the Apex Warlords. Remember, Apex Warlords were lingering around in Skyhook to try and finish off Forbidden, and now they find themselves in trouble with the ring to their back closing in on them.
We also saw that Nessie had showed presence there too here before Apex Warlords are now finally able to try to claw their way through that choke. Nessie was quick on the rotate to be on the mouth of the train track cave that we saw Gaming Gladiators holding on the north side earlier on. Cybercats still having height, but still also feeling that pressure close to that choke, with Na'Vi now approaching in. Cybercats clean up Apex Warlords. Ranches being on that path, they really opening things up here for them. And now nobody really in the distance to try to contest them with full English, not really deciding to fully send it.
Oh, it's going to be Nessie at the bottom of this one. The wall has gone down. Na'Vi, though, back away from this fight. Wait out the utility here as that Bangalore ultimate does go down. Really, they've got plenty of time to work with here, so they don't need to force the issue. They have another minute before the zone starts closing. And I think they heard the fight kind of concluding to their north, so they had to be worried about that 3rd timing party coming out from Cybercats. Good decision here for Na'Vi. But now as they rotate further and further to the south, you do run into a little bit more resistance. For FaZe, though, the fight, it's players pushing forward, looking to take advantage, but players have lost out on Kazakh. Knuckle Cluster in from V2 as Nags ends up securing that thirst onto Kazik.
And Go Next trying to grief them there too, putting in even more damage here as they're the ones in that next circle. But the same can't be said about players trying to play on the edge as a duo currently. FaZe inside of this building after rotating from the rocks earlier have found themselves in a free space here with the Watson already set up. Trying to actually contest that. One player trying to run away from their line of sight, but it's going to be difficult with Go Next also looking at them.
Getting the free utility there. Extra arc stars coming in for Cinetic, and they're going to need this utility really to clear out a lot of the angles once this zone pulls in. Right now, though, for FaZe, do they want to get aggressive? Do they want to try and finish off the last 2 kill points there and then make it an easier rotate in from the north side? For Aurora, though, they're still dealing with the thermal on the other side of this one. Impulse almost went down. Luckily, they're able to get the reset at the very least. Caught in the middle of smoke. Knuckle Cluster as well, chipping away at them, but looks like OJ will be okay for now. Tyler getting finished off. But you can see that they're still kind of pinned down. They've got the man advantage and try to charge forwards here with the Bang ultimate. And OJ is on top of him, will finish off one. And there it is, Aurora clearing out this side of the map. And they gotta pray that a third party doesn't come their way.
Oh, because they lost out on Rugby, and there's a third party that we were dreading. Jamerson Atlas have now shown their face and try to pressure out Aurora with the circle closing in right behind them. Luckily for Aurora and Atlas, they're both in that circle, but Atlas want to capitalize. Look at how low Aurora is, getting a taste of their own medicine as Zuni has now slid in, trying to stop the full heal up and the full reset. Aurora get eliminated. Talk about timing now on Atlas's end as Na'Vi maybe looking to see if they can try to wrap around here. They were involved in a fight versus full English, with Atlas going to be able to come out on top with all the death boxes to their feet.
That needed to be a cleaner fight for Aurora. They had the man advantage there, and losing out on one, especially your lifeline, is not what you want whatsoever. And they get punished for it. So now Atlas, they get a free walk-in, it looks like, to come in from the southeast side. For FaZe Clan, though, they're still over in the rocks over at Survey Camp. They do have a pretty easy slide down as, I mean, we're already down to 5 squads, by the way. There's been a lot of fighting here in the mid game so far, and it's not over quite yet as Atlas are taking a lot of damage there from full English, and it's full English to have priority on the zone.
Playing on the edge, while Go Next have just claimed the middle part of where that final zone is going to be pulling towards. Atlas are taking shots at full English. FaZe uncontested on the northeast side. Nice beams coming in from Zuni once again. With 4 squads left, they close in the gap. They send out the Bang ult here too. Still trying to get out of their line of sight, but Zuni is zooming around these rocks.
Oh, I thought Thor might get some help there with that evil upgrade, but now Atlas are just falling to the wayside. It's all up to Zuni here as full English charge forward. He is playing around these knockdown shields, the smoke creating a little bit of cover at the very least. He's down to about 1 shot, but he survives. The Havoc finishes off full English. He's not going to have the time for the reset, though, as the zone is closing in on his back now, and he's going to have to leave his teammates. There you can see, though, he's going to maybe possibly get an opportunity to try and punch one player in, but I don't know if he can have both survive.
Wow, you get a third party, you get a third party. Everybody comes in at the perfect time, and FaZe needed to capitalize off of that, because right before we saw the Havoc weapon swap up, he had an R9 with only 30 bullets to his name. Now hailing from the high ground here, looking at what remains of Atlas. Go Next are safe inside a building, and FaZe are playing in a very nice split position where they're still claiming the other building to prevent Go Next from taking up too much free real estate.
They have free sights, all the exits that Go Next can utilize in this fight. It's a clean 3v3, even armors on either side as well. And for FaZe Clan, they've already started off pretty strong on top of the day here. If they can take out Go Next, would be huge for them going into game number 6.
We saw the action that FaZe brought on Storm Point. Can they replicate that again here on World's Edge? Go Next playing inside of this building with the Catalyst, FaZe playing right on top of their heads. It's just the fact that FaZe has so many different angles here, way better angles to work off of, as Go Next is struggling to see what they can do outside this building.
They don't really have an option to try and do anything other than tank the Watson pylons there, unfortunately. Nice wall there to clear that one out at the very least and push forward, but that utility is used up early on. Arctic, though, on the high ground, takes a lot of damage, will be forced back, and you can see them trying to utilize that timing to retake height, and Nags giving up space as he backs away with that scan, but he's got the Beast in the Hunt pop now. Go next, trying to split up a little bit here. You can see Kashera still on the high ground, one slap on the left, excuse me, and they charge forward, but Kashera takes massive damage, falls right on top of the traps, and it's Nags to pick up 2 kills. FaZe Clan now looking to finish it all off. It's going to be a massive game for them at the end of the day. They've already got 5 kill points, picking up more. FaZe Clan taking the win here in game number 5.
In a way better position too than Go Next, playing on the outside of the building, and that's with Nags having no energy ammo in the Havoc. He closed it off with the Hemlock to the very end, and FaZe now being the only team of the day so far that has been able to cling 2 dubs to their name. Huge game here for FaZe now, elevating them in the overall standings.
Yeah, that's a massive game, especially with the kind of trajectory that we're getting out of Game and Gaming. Coming swinging in game number 4 with the 24-point game, and FaZe answers right on back, and that's kind of what we expect out of the lobby, or excuse me, the group leaders out of both A and B. That's FaZe and Gaming respectively.
Wow, and also highlights the consistency between both of these teams. Once again, EMEA really showing off that they could keep going strong between both Stormpoint and World's Edge, or vice versa, depending on if the map rotates, still swap up. But FaZe played that so patiently. Let's also not forget that they were right behind Gaming Gladiators on that north side of the map, playing on the outskirts of the rock and not trying to force their positioning inside of building too early until eventually they could deny that space from teams like players that were struggling to find any space in that building, and then timing-wise, were able to then come right back in around to the south side of that final circle, clean up what was left of that final team, and then take whatever they had for loot, because they were struggling at the very end, Jamerson.
Yeah, and importantly, honestly, the position that they had early on, taking the rocks at Survey Camp, is probably one of the strongest positions when you get a northern pull like that, and FaZe Clan played that one perfectly. You also have to do note, though, that they had a lot more space to work with than you would normally, so finishing out that game was a little bit easier because there was so much aggression taking place in the mid game. I mean, we had something like 10 teams by zone 3, zone 4, so it's not the usual circumstances for that kind of game. I feel like if it went on a little bit more conservatively, FaZe might have been able to pick up a few more kill points, but end of the day, they got the dub. That's all that matters.
Yeah, got that extra 12 points on top of the KP that you were able to already secure. And with the dub already in their pocket earlier in the day, Jamerson, you can only imagine the gap that they've now been able to build up between themselves and the rest of the lobby, where our top 5 teams have definitely been very kill heavy thus far in the game.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I think we were right to kind of point out FaZe and Gaming early on. You can see there it was 7 kills overall for them, along with that plus 12. Go Next, I believe, had priority on that zone, and they again were able to convert that into a second place finish with kills. So Go Next staying nice and proactive throughout all of that. Atlas, a team that we wanted to point out early on, finally showing their heads here on the leaderboard with a 3rd place finish, along with that 6 KP.
Huge here too for Atlas, because they had rotated very quickly from Geyser just to get onto that north side. When we take a look at the second page here, Cybercats, we saw them to the very end falling down with only 3 KP to their name, but we saw what happened to a lot of the squads that had to exit out of that tunnel side closer to that Skyhook choke, that all the teams closer to Survey were able to take some free shots from, especially the teams that were rotating from Epi.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that, you know, this is another opportunity where 3D Max had priority on the zone and they weren't really able to convert that one. But I mean, in the face of the opposition that they had to face, once they got over there, it became very difficult for them. But you can see the kind of the game plan that they had. But right now, still looking at the bottom of the leaderboard here for that game at the very least, Blacklist International, Forbidden. Again, we're still waiting for these teams to really pop up a little bit more. And it's just unfortunate they haven't been able to really find their footing so far with the additions to their rosters.
They have their slight moments where they shine, like we saw from Blacklist for Game 3 on Stormpoint, but again, it's just not being able to replicate that on World's Edge. They sit in 11th place with 10 total kills, but then here comes that gap that we're mentioning within our top 5 teams. I mean, even looking at FaZe, between FaZe and Gangman, and then the rest of this lobby, what Trojan is right behind them, tied up together with Passion UA, Navi with a 5-point difference, but tied between Navi, Atlas, and Aurora. This last game could be a huge banger here, depending on the teams that really pop off.
Yeah, one decision here or there that went Navi's way could have been the difference maker for the to put them into the top 3. But honestly, the fact that they've been able to play consistent, and of course that they were able to pop off on Stormplate in particular, are keeping them competitive right now. But game number 6, this is where it's coming down to, and now it's almost a 2-horse race between FaZe and Gaimin. But we also have that 3rd place team as well.
Yeah, chilling right behind him here too. It's been great action thus far, and it's nice to see the teams that really do play to their strengths and manage to stay consistent no matter what map that we're playing on here currently. We'll have more action for game number 6 on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it here with the EMEA action and the ALGS. Welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS. It's been non-stop action here within EMEA, and we still have one more game to go, Jamerson.
Yeah, man, this final game, honestly, we'll see if someone can finally basically dethrone Gaimin Gladiators, who have been having an amazing run in the A versus B matchup overall. But Aurora showing some signs of life here with some great fighting on the southeast side.
And we saw Atlas coming in at a perfect time here, while Aurora, they definitely had the control in that previous fight, but took way too much damage that allowed Atlas to clean them up even quicker. And kind of like revenge here with Atlas coming out from that fight, then counter-rotated around Na'Vi before they inevitably got third-partied by FaZe with a nice roundabout rotate that sets them up on the high ground versus Go Next.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, this was just a beautiful fight set up for FaZe. Go Next decided to basically contain themselves inside of this building, and unfortunately there's Watson on the other side that just sets up traps, and you can see Arctic controlling both doors here, and I believe this is where they fall into the trap, take a lot of damage, you get stunned, you get slowed down, and FaZe are just able to play off of this beautiful range of fire there. Again, you saw how well they played off the rocks and then moving into survey camp. Playing off that priority is just fantastic for them.
It's been fantastic, and if you guys have been enjoying the action thus far, make sure you guys tune in to Face It Watch, which is the official multi-view streaming platform for the ALGS. Follow up the action with up to 14 point of views on fce.gg/watchalgs. You guys can make sure to tune into your favorite teams and listen to their comms, or even lower our comms if you want to actually pay attention to what the teams have to say and the way that they try to rotate here.
It's such an incredible resource. I mean, just using it to prepare for our game days has been amazing. Being able to watch all the POVs, the map views, everything, and all you have to do is just sign up. That's all. And it's all available to you.
It's been great to also customize your own viewing experience too on the different audio mixers. It's been great, as it has been to watch FaZe take 2 games today alone, leading the overall 2 groups that we're witnessing play off. But FaZe, can they do it again in this final game, knowing that they land here by Overlook having the 20th pick in the seed on World's Edge? And it's been playing out amazingly with the way that these circles have been pulling away from them.
Yeah, honestly, to be left with Overlook is honestly a great choice. I love it. we've had a lot of pulls, I would say, towards the Overlook side, No Name side. So being able to pick this and get that priority is incredibly strong. Even with a northern pull like we got off of Survey Camp phase, we're able to basically get second, maybe third priority on positions there and played off the rocks extremely well. But now this is where they're going to get a little bit tested. We're getting a strong pull over to the northwest side, Countdown, and some portions of Skyhook in. This is where I think you can play hard edge extremely well, utilize that map 3 information, or excuse me, the ring 3 scan to really know where you need to commit basically for your rotate.
Jamerson, is there a World's Edge final circle without giving us a little taste of the Skyhook zones here? I mean, we get to see it now for this final game, paying off maybe for Na'Vi, considering that they have that ring beacon right there. Vex already quick enough to actually take over the high ground of Trials after nobody is left there, because Full English had already quickly rotated away from Skyhook west side, closer to Trials, and now prioritize that northern building in case that this circle, if it does end up pulling towards that north side, they could be one of the ones to already claim a building themselves. These are the type of circles that you also could expect a lot of teams to coexist with, the amount of buildings that there are to take cover in.
Yeah, I could understand wanting to try and control possibly like the market side of Skyhook. It's just so odd when you do have, of course, top Trials that you can be taking. Vex noticing that early on will go ahead and take it. Na'Vi actually give up their position there and move up, but going back down to the southeast side of the map right now, over at Eggshell, it's going to be Blacklist International up against Players. Players actually just avoiding this fight and will rotate away from them.
Calling it quits here. Instead, just trying to see. We try to prioritize going over to the other side of the vault tunnel, avoiding Blacklist. Trojan already had rotated out of Lava Siphon, now already going through Geyser. So the only really team that they could worry about on the south side could be Eternal once they get that ring beacon scan and that survey beacon. See the scan actually onto the players, as they're going to now take a huge U-turn, wrap up behind Blacklist instead, and now try to approach from the stack side. Maybe they have a vault tunnel key here, have to see.
Yeah, it has to be a vault tunnel at this point. There's no way you put that much priority on it without having it, right? It's like, oh, we're here now, guys. Who brought the key? Oh, phone keys wallet, right? You always have to remind yourself before you move out.
Go with the quickness, especially if they're gonna make a roundabout rotate right behind Blacklist, who had scanned them earlier on that survey beacon. Now taking a look at other teams here. Passion UA still in the outskirts of Lava Fisher. We highlighted the crypto pick earlier on, and that could actually come in clutch for a final circle like this.
Yeah, 3D Max. Remember, they're coming over from the epicenter side with the space allowed and afforded for them from Full English. They're actually able to take the bottom Trials. You know, this is a position where if Full English had taken top Trials, that would have forced, who was it before, Vex, to take bottom Trials, and then 3D Max would have had to play something a little bit different here. But with that move, they're able to go all the way back here and play time off of the Watson gen. And so I think Forbidden are just playing now for late game.
That and neighboring that of 3D Max here too, just essentially sharing that same space that we can expect more team to try to do, as way more of these squads have now taken control over the north side of where they're predicting the circle to pull right now. So we have Vexed on the high ground, 3D Max sharing the low ground of Trials alongside the other squad that we just saw, Forbidden here. Passion UA are not going to be giving up their space, though, by Lava Fisher. They could deny other teams from trying to get the scan on the ring console that is over by Lava Fisher.
Yeah, 3D Max, though, do have a lot more space to play off. You can see they have taken the inside of Trials proper, while they have set up a small defensive perimeter there on the eastern side. But I think, yeah, definitely play a little bit bigger here. You don't want to just completely coexist. If you have the opportunity, maybe try and force out Forbidden here, but I don't think anyone really wants to take that kind of early fight, especially with the looming threat of the team on top of Trials. They can come in for the third party at any point.
So many opportunities here, while FaZe, our winners from the last game here, have found themselves in between these rocks that we see a lot of teams try to play for the space. Gonna be able to be cheeky here, the way that they can not only control the space with the Watson fences, but deny the opportunity for so many other teams like Passion, like Nessie, looking at them from Countdown, from trying to wrap around them in this early rotate and trying to sandwich them.
Yeah, we could see some classic circles here, especially in between Countdown, Lava Fisher. We do know that there are a few that can end basically on top of where FaZe Clan are right now on that Raven side. So I like this positioning out of them, along with that aggressive pushing out from Arctic to try and keep an eye on the north and south sides here. But along the edges, we are fighting more fights. Aurora versus Eternal once again.
See Eternal with Bambino having that purple Evo, sending out that knuckle cluster. He's got the mother load ready to go here. Having that slight high ground, also looking behind to make sure they aren't going to get contested by another team. From players now rotating outside of Harvester, Eternal's just looking at Aurora. Nor are the squads in the vicinity just yet, but also preventing Aurora from trying to get the information that is located in staging with that ring console.
And this is Blacklist versus Trojans here. Don't know how strongly you want to try and commit to this fight, especially possible looming threat of third parties behind. You can hear the shots coming out from the western edge as well. So you can see now they're keeping an eye on that to see if there might be an opening come in. They might have spotted out the player squad, and I think they did, taking shots over there. Beast of the Hunt is popped, and you can see the kiting back from Blacklist.
All right here, as they try closing that gap here in Harvester. The beams with the Havoc, though, they lose out on Antonym, though, with 2 down for Trojan. Oh, just as they quickly pop that Beast of the Hunt, they quickly get deleted. Blacklist coming out, barely taking any pressure, but roundabout, though, on the other side of the Harvester was players that maybe wanted to look to see if they could get involved now, wrapping on the north side of Harvester.
We'll see if that's going to be enough of an opening for Blacklist now. With that team fight win to push up and take that ring console, that would be huge for them, especially playing hard edge like this. It doesn't seem like players are going to try and contest that whatsoever. They're just moving their way on up towards that monument side. Taking a look at hard edge teams right now. Go next. Remember, I believe they they drop at survey camp and they have not left, making their way on over towards epicenter. They are definitely playing for that ring 3 information. I love that kind of patience play out of them. They know that they have a lot of buildings they can more than likely play off of Skyhook if this zone continues pulling north. So really, they're not losing that much tempo overall. So I like that game plan coming out from Go Next. As Cybercats find themselves in trouble, they've already lost out on their Bloodhound now. It's Gaming Gladiators giving chase to them once again.
Yeah, the catwall there ready to go too if another team tries to show presence. I mean, Gladiators get into position. They try to capitalize off of the duel. Try to run away, but blast the G7 shots. Give him a haircut while Light takes a nice off-angle position and still trying to put in the pressure. But I love the suppress fire that we're still seeing. Alonzi is so low, cannot get away in time. Looking to heal up just before he can close in that gap.
Yeah, it's just chasing off that damage right now, but Light does have to be careful. He cannot just play so far up by himself. You can see how far away he was actually from Blast and Lufka, and so they made the call. They're going to go ahead and back away. They've done enough to pressure them off, and they've got time, so they don't need to force the issue here. They can keep an eye on the walk-in, see if this building is free, but typically it's not going to be. A lot of teams still kind of piled up over on that Skyhook side. As we pull back, it does seem like there was a team actually playing inside of that countdown building. So Gaming Gladiators making the right call. They don't leave themselves vulnerable to a third party from Atlas there, as Aurora now playing off of that connecting area between Lava Fissure and a Countdown now are going to look to play the gatekeepers here on the southwest side of this ring.
Which is a really good spot to hold here, but I'm more so worried at the fact since they don't have a control legend, they can't really bunker down in this choke building, or other squads now looking at them, such as Nessie. I don't expect them to give up the high ground that they've held already in Countdown, but other teams like Eternal, once that circle starts pulling up and Eternal starts seeing that, maybe having to make the decision if they want to rotate from the south side of Danish, or if they want to try to take that fight versus Aurora, since they aren't going to be able to really bunker down in that building.
It does seem like the teams have noted that threat. Eternal, though, they don't have to commit onto this. They've got their options right. They can wrap down and go through the office buildings over at Countdown. Looking at 3D Max, though, looks like they were able to spot out a Na'Vi. Henchman and Matafe going down, kind of the only one left up. But he needs to get over there as quickly as possible. Oh no, the scan was actually just maybe might have been a little bit short. Looked close, but yeah, never mind. He's got to give it up. Kind of backing away now. Getting chased down, actually. And that is Na'Vi out in 16th.
And that is 3D Max picking up that free KP here too with the Hemlock. More than enough for them to now also claim that north side of the circle, because this circle is pulling directly closer to that cyber tower that's on the outskirts of Trials by those bins. And Passion UA are going to be able to hold the other corner that exits out of Lava Fisher. So we know with all the teams that have to come out of Skyhook in that next circle, countdown, the teams that are going to look at where that circle is going to be pulling, that is going to look like an absolute bloodbath.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a battle for FaZe Clan. You can see that they are the ones controlling that choke between Countdown and that open ground outside of Trials here. And with how fast they actually moved into that spot, I don't know if they've got the economy to keep all these teams at bay. We still have 16 teams alive here, so the pileup is gonna be massive when it finally happens.
And that's what we're expecting too. In a circle like this, teams would either try to bank on finding space in Skyhook or playing on the outskirts, which is what we're seeing from most of the lobby, actually playing on that south side closer to Countdown. But still, Countdown provides so many different buildings to coexist in. So you can see Gaming Gladiators, if they want to call in this evac tower, or do they want to push right behind Atlas? It looks like they may want to just take the evac tower, wrap around Countdown instead. And if they go for that option, Danish, Eternal, I believe Blacklist are all fighting for that southern building in Countdown.
A little bit surprised by that early Rolling Thunder coming out. I believe that was from Atlas onto Gaming Gladiators, but with the utilization of that evac tower, they do find themselves in a pretty decent spot. It looks like a team though. Oh boy, gave their lives for this position before, and you can see why. Nice angles coming out. I'm wondering who that was. But now GG, will they be able to recover? They might have an opportunity to try and go for that full reset, unless Nessie has something to say about it.
I mean, with a Hail Mary evac like that, they saw Nessie was on the high ground. They got scared, played off the low ground right into the lovely line of sight of Aurora. Now still alive, though, for now, while Danish on the other side of the building in Countdown, they've been able to secure not only this building, but I do believe Blacklist is trying to share some of that space on that low ground right alongside them. Atlas still alive here, still trying to play off that north side, contesting Nessie, who are still in that building.
You know, Atlas given a lot of space as Nessie chased after the Gaming Gladiators there, and Atlas are able to take advantage, retake high ground here. A lot of their back being left free because of that rotate coming out from GG. Danish looking to get involved in this one as Atlas drops down, and Atlas, will they be able to survive? Here comes the third party now. Tryhard Thor will fall, and Zuni. Oh my goodness, Atlas had such a beautiful spot to play out of. Now things are left open for Blacklist International to come in for the third party.
That was so free for Blacklist there too, uncontested, while they were on the other side of the building. Just walk in after a reset and clean up Nessie. 8 squads left, and Countdown is completely freed up now here on that rotate, while FaZe, they're looking at all the action happening. They are not going to get involved. Instead, they were fixated on the teams that may try to rotate from their choke side from Skyhook.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how quickly that congestion on the southeast side actually freed up. FaZe Clan were looking down the barrel of possibly 10 teams rotating into them, but now they're able to walk in for free with a lot of their back cleared up. For Aurora, though, taking a push on to Passion UA right now, as they have to deal with so much gas, a lot of utility. They lose out on Rugby, and now it's just all 9 Impulse here. Aurora go down.
Aurora finally get eliminated after getting pinched. Blacklist have now moved in right in front of Passion. The circle closing in right to their backs with 5 squads left and no other team to contest them on this west side of the circle. Love the angles that we're currently seeing right here now with the Hemlock and the gold extended heavy mag, but missing some of these burst shots. You cannot miss like this, but don't worry, Chaku JMW, they take a different angle. They try to get the suppressed fire here. They took so much pressure. Luckily for Blacklist, though, they have JMW on this lifeline.
And now Blacklist International are basically in God spot. They've got this deep pocket to play off of, and they have priority on zone. That big rock right in front of them on the other side of that corner is going to be massive. It's all really up to FaZe Clan, really, to try and take the initiative and take the tempo away from Blacklist International. But if FaZe Clan stick to this wall, they're going to get caught up in that fight between Apex Warlords and Vex as they try and drop down and push out of Trials. For Blacklist International, it's all about how many kills can we get to finish off this game.
for free for them here too, because they know that no other team is going to contest them with their backs to that circle. Really going to be able to have free reign over not only FaZe, who are going to get inevitably pinched by the teams that have height and the team that's going to be exiting out of trials, but then feeling that pressure if you do not get to those rocks for some extra makeshift cover.
FaZe Clan, though, still playing this one a little bit tentatively. I can understand why. Apex Warlords have that sight down. You can see that angle. FaZe would leave themselves vulnerable here. They're just kind of hoping that Vex maybe do something to throw this one and give a little bit of advantage for FaZe. You can see Nags keeping an eye on that corner that Blacklist International are looking over. Now, really, they don't have to do much for Blacklist International. They don't have to over-peak things. They just need to keep an eye on where the teams are. Movement out now from FaZe Clan to get to the exit of Trials here, as Apex Warlords are not aware of it quite yet. Blacklist do trade some damage, and they do give away that they have red armors on the other side, but honestly, they already have the godly positioning, and now with that smoke out, Hyarka will go ahead and increase their arc. He does take some damage and has to back away. That might be an opening for Vex, honestly, to try and push out.
Blacklist calling in another lifeline care pack. You could only assume that they have another gold knockdown shield here to work off of, and FaZe playing off this low ground right below Apex Warlords. Blacklist were giving them some nice suppressed fire as Apex Warlords are forced to drop down. Beasts of the Hunt has been called in, as well as the Cat, while Arctic with the beams on the Volt. He doesn't even need an extended energy mag here, trying to chase them down. The Bang ult still has not been used up here, going over to the side with 4 squads left. They fully commit over to this fight, and that means that Vex are going to be able to be right behind them to clean up as Apex Warlords take care of FaZe.
Now here comes that crossfire being set up by Blacklist International. JMW far back, of course, playing that anchor for his squad. They've done some damage off their right. You can see how they want to move in for these kills. They really don't need to force the issue here, as JMW have a beautiful angle onto them right now. They just need one player to actually keep an eye on Vex. And it's surprising how Uchaku now on the high ground is almost playing the anchor for them.
Also in the worst position right now is Apex Warlords, with Vex looking at them, Blacklist having them pinched in between little to no cover. Look at all the nades. Arcstar, double nades. Only so many places you can hide behind as Apex Warlords are taken out. Uchaku now sends out all the nades himself, seeing if he can juggle them like he's in the circus currently. You see the crack coming in. Huge entry point for Uchaku after he pops Beast of the Hunt. Waiting to the very end after they see that they've left one of the teammates from Vex behind, and capitalizing, getting that knock onto Denze. 2 squads left, and Blacklist are on a tear to claim another game under their belt. Look at the amount of KP that they have. This is a game that they need to show not only their consistency, but to put themselves in the top 20 overall standings in the leaderboards.
They're on the verge of another massive game. Blacklist International will finish it all off, taking game number 6. And like you had mentioned, they finish off both halves with the win, taking game number 3 at Downed Beast and repeating it here on our 3rd rendition of World's Edge. Beautiful play coming out from them. And honestly, it was some great macro decisions coming out from Blacklist International. The way that they were able to navigate around on that countdown side and find that flank onto Passion UA to win out on that God spot. Beautiful play coming out from Blacklist International.
Committing to going through that rotation point instead of trying to go in the direction that FaZe was into was an amazing call. They knew that they had to fight their way for the best position in that next circle that we've seen done many of times, but even better, having a great performance day for Blacklist, very similar to their day yesterday, where they finished in 3rd, I believe, tying up their score with Alliance, and now replicating the same type of success going into today's game.
Yeah, JMW having a massive game there as well. Love to see it, especially when you get those roster swaps midway through the split as well. It can be a tough thing, but it looks like he slots in extremely well for them. 2 wins on the day, slowing down FaZe, but I don't know if FaZe has done enough, but they did have a fairly comfortable lead going into game number 6 to close things out overall.
Yeah, having the double win for them, and now Blacklist joining them in the club. I got to bring Dia back in after an explosive final game right there, because Blacklist, every time they have that circle priority, they find themselves with the W, like we saw on Stormpoint when they were on top of Down Beast.
It's funny that we're saying that as well, because Blacklist are a team that throughout the first half of the season that has not been true of. Like you're talking about, when we see them have an amazing, or when we see them be able to maneuver into a good spot, it's so often they're able to convert it. And yet that reputation they developed through Split 1 has only just now come into effect with the acquisition of JMW. It seems like those two things are lining up nicely, Jamerson.
Yeah, and again, you do have to note that that was an incredible game for them, because this was one of the harder ring pulls, I would say, overall, coming all the way from stack side and all the way to the northwest side of the map, one of the longest rotations ever. And honestly, having to deal with that congestion that we saw forming around Raven, forming around Countdown, they navigated that one extremely well. I'm really excited about the prospects of this team, especially after this weekend's play.
And it really does harken back to how comfortable a team like Blacklist International are moving out of the south side. Back when they were 2R1C, they would also play out of Stacks, or Lava City as it used to be known. Blacklist International finished that game 26 points for a win, is going to boost them nice and high on the leaderboards, with Vex following them up. A pretty good day for Vex as well, Vicky.
Absolutely, getting that second place finish after claiming that north side of that circle pool with 4 KP. Apex Warlords, though, the 9 KP that they had to fight their way into getting through that choke, eventually going from the high ground of trials, jumping on top of FaZe. Unfortunately for them, they were in probably the worst position you could be in a final circle like that, though.
And it's really surprising to see Vex and Apex Warlords here in second and third, because up until this moment, it hadn't been a good day for them. But to be able to clean up 13 and 16 points respectively, more than triples both of their points coming out of this last match of the day. And finally, you can leave here around the middle of the leaderboards with a lot less loss than you might otherwise have had. Of course, looking a little further down, things don't look nearly as hopeful for teams like Danish and surprisingly Game and Gladiators, who I think can rest on their laurels a bit. They've earned a bad game here and there, Jamerson, but this still would have been nice for them to bump themselves further up the leaderboard, maybe contest for a win.
Yeah, typically, you know, for Game and Gladiators, they're averaging 5 to 8 points per game, and so this is definitely a one-off for them. I don't think we take this game as anything as a statement against Game and Gladiators. It just happens sometimes, right? This was a rough one at the very least, but honestly, I think this is probably the worst performance they've had so far in the A and B matchup, but that's still saying a lot, especially with how consistent they were across all 3 rounds of play between these two groups.
It's funny because this really does harken back to exactly what Jamerson was talking about at the start of the broadcast, is the idea that because these teams can be a little bit more POI reliant than we see in international play in other regions, you are likely to find more high variance in between some games. Game and Gladiators still come out with a really respectable 44 points, but FaZe Clan and Blacklist International, who've been playing for zones, for god spots, and managed to do so even when things aren't necessarily in what we might call the home zone, managed to top the leaderboards 60 and 51 points respectively. Passion UA also looking pretty good, Vicky.
Yeah, and that's with Blacklist, by the way, skyrocketing themselves to second place from 11th before taking that game. So that was an explosive game for them to take to be within that top 2 spot. Even looking at Na'Vi coming in with 19 total kills, they had started pretty strong. Unfortunately, though, not finding themselves within that top 5 after the chaos that we saw constantly clashing between Aurora and Na'Vi so many times.
Yeah, and importantly, importantly
please.
Blacklist International is that they, with this performance now, they give themselves a huge lifeline going into their final day of play. They were in 21st place in the overall leaderboard, but this performance today really gives them a shot at hitting top 8.
I'm looking at Aurora and Na'Vi as well, since we touched on their beef before the broadcast. This time, Aurora, I expect to see a couple of tweets from them with their 41 points. They're actually not that far ahead of Na'Vi, but I'll take a symbolic victory, Vicky.
You know what, though, when it comes to seeing what these teams have to say from the social media managers back where the Twitter beef actually plays out between Na'Vi, Atlas, Aurora, it's always very enjoyable to see how they get to wrap up their day, especially in a day like this where you see Aurora ahead of Na'Vi just by a little bit. You know, 6 extra points could definitely go a long way here. And then seeing teams like FaZe, though, lead the pack, though, between the rest of EMEA, a rather large gap between themselves, and even second place with Blacklist holding on to 51 points.
And as we're talking about, this is the final round robin. And so this is the last time, oddly enough, that we're going to see groups A and B play each other. There's going to be one more match day for each. But now that we're going our separate ways, Jamerson, we're likely to see many different interactions determine whether these teams come out on top or not, because they'll be playing in a fresh lobby each time.
Yeah, and I think it really is important to have had a good day today. Unfortunately for some of our squads, it's looking like it might be out of reach going into the final day of play. But again, you still have to put your best foot forward. So hopefully going into the final day of play for a lot of our teams, they can kind of shake it all off and try and finish off the split on a good footing.
And well, there's a lot to reflect on given what we saw today in the overall standings, how that'll impact the larger league. It's also nice to be able to focus down on the moments that made it so special. Let's take a look at the final circles from our last 3 games, where performance was what it was all about, Vicky. Even starting in Monument, it really came down to execution, especially for Game & Gladiators, who did it again and again.
This is my favorite. I love the fact that we keep trying to replay this, because off of the double evac to get involved in the fight as quickly as possible, recognizing that Aurora on the lifeline probably had a gold knockdown to get the res and then get the reset. Even then, they struggled a little bit, were able to come out on top. There was no shield swap right there from Lufka, but they did have light show presence, and they were able to not only take control over that side of the circle, but then have height over the rest of the lobby here.
And this was a really interesting decision, of course, from the team surrounding them. We talked about in a moment, Jamerson, how Nessie, while they commit to the low ground, this does ultimately mean they won't win the game. It's absolutely a play for KP that they feel is more certain with the height advantage.
I feel like they could have still taken that 50-50. I mean, I understand you want to come in, get that third party, but that chance to take that 50-50 against Gaiman, I would understand if there were other confounding factors, like their economy was low and you don't feel as comfortable, but there was plenty of ammo on on all the players. They could have taken that option, but still you got to respect it at the end of the day. Here was Aurora, though, in game number 5, really cleaning up a lot of that epicenter side, but Atlas came down with the full pressure of the world on top of them.
And this was such an odd game because so much of it was determined, for all that it was a survey camp zone, completely outside of a survey, in epicenter, in the open ground leading into the Monument side, where Atlas eventually committed before being third-partied by FaZe. We talked about the third party, fourth party, everyone gets one. Ultimately, it did come down to a 3v3, which, to their credit, FaZe controlled marvelously, Vicky.
Yeah, everyone was invited here, and FaZe wanted to make sure that they hosted the next party because they were able to take high over Go Next. You saw the beam earlier on from Nax, used up all the ammo that he had in that Havoc to the late game, hit a quick 162 before then capitalizing off that last member of Go Next. But a great counter rotate from FaZe for that game.
Our final game, of course, had Blacklist International picking up yet another win today. That gives us 2 teams, both FaZe and Blacklist, that have managed to find their second win, although, much to my begrudging admission, it does mean that nobody's getting bonus points again, something that we still, since the introduction of bonus points, have not been able to hand out in either NA or EMEA. Though I have to say, I am happy for Blacklist. Jamerson, I'd love to be giving out the bonus points. They feel so nice and special.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. It's, 2 teams just right on the edge there. But you do have to, once again, come back to this. Blacklist International has just done an amazing job in navigating this game. One thing I do want to note here, it came down to, of course, Blacklist International versus Vex. This is 2 games in a row, by the way, where a team had Prio on one of the best positions for the final ring and gave it up. In Survey Camp, ending for game number 5, FaZe ended up taking the God Rocks on northeast side of Survey Camp. GG ended up giving that one up and going deeper into the zone to the north side. For Vex, remember, they were able to take top trials because Full English, despite dropping Sky West, were like, nah, this isn't the spot. They move out. Vex were given that for free and then played off of that for that second place finish.
Maybe our teams are taking, if you love something, let it go, a little bit too much to heart. With the day now concluded, however, we can take this and look forward into how it impacts the rest of the region. FaZe Clan now top the region, moving up a couple of spots, although it's important to note that they are a match day ahead of the other contenders, or I should say contender, as there's really only one squad here that has played 4 match days. Alliance, Vicky, still in the top 4 squads.
Yeah, still have another day to play out here, but I'm eyeing Blacklist. Look at the amount of slots that they have moved up from their original position of 21st in the overall standings, now all the way to the top 10. Talk about comeback after figuring out the changes that they needed for this squad to find their success.
This is even more impressive when we think about the fact that it's been 2 days in a row where they've essentially jumped 10 spots a day because they started at the bottom of EMEA. This does push teams like Ninjas in Pajamas and Aurora down just a little bit. Surprisingly, however, Aurora were one of those teams that were a lot lower in the standings that today managed to leap quite a bit. Funnily enough, Jamerson, and I pointed this out at the start of the broadcast, Passion still in that middle section of teams.
That's with 3 series played. Again, it goes to show, like, if they had just stuck together, imagine what they could have done. But we understand why you want to go ahead and split up. Unfortunately, you know, you see the result of it. But hey, I think it was Blacklist International that might have come out on top of the entire roster swap.
And we are seeing quite a few teams, like you mentioned, Blacklist International, really gaining a lot of ground after the roster swap. Most of the teams that the members of Passion went to have managed to benefit. Forbidden, I think the notable exception here, are sitting in 28th, but they've still got time to come back and have certainly demonstrated some pretty good gameplay over the last couple of days. It is unfortunate that, you know, when it comes down to it, you are playing two days in a row. Blacklist clearly had that on lock. Perhaps Forbidden not quite feeling in the zone just now, are going to have to revisit this in the new meta post the patch. We've got some other important stuff to talk about, however. Since now we know where the teams stand, it's important to acknowledge those people that made a huge difference in today's games. That's right, we're talking about our MVP. I am fortunately going to give this one over to none other than FaZe Clan. We had to give it to them. It was really a matter of who it would go to. And I'll be honest, I was having some trouble. I knew that Synetic was really good. I was amazed by Arctic's anchor play today, and even in this end game, remember the FaZe aren't getting here if not for Arctic. But with the Kraber shots lying as they did, and especially with the World's Edge performances coming down to as much as Synetic was able to really give the team in terms of space, control, you can see the difference that this player is making, not just statistically, but in the positioning. 4.7k damage over the course of the day, almost 5k, 10 kills, 12 assists. And I do really want to shout out that while we're giving Synetic the MVP, this is such a massive team effort. You really saw everybody playing together. And speaking of, we've actually got not just our winning squad, not just our MVP, but also our interview being the same person. So, welcome, Synetic, to the Apex Legends Global Series broadcast. It is nice to have you on with us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure you heard, but being nominated for our MVP just beforehand, it was very exciting to watch you play today. The last time we spoke, it was just before you went to Split 1 playoffs as Made in Heaven. You've obviously changed a lot since then, picking up Nags from 07, changing names entirely. Now you're represented by FaZe. What's been the biggest shift for you since just before Split 1 playoffs and now?
I think the biggest change was adding Nags to the roster, like for sure. Our like fighting power just grew exponentially, so we could actually like play the game how I wanted to play it. Like we were playing hard zone last split and in playoffs, which kind of went for our downfall as well because we just got unlucky on beacons and couldn't run to zone. But now with Nags, we can like fight anyone. Like we can fight the strongest teams in EU and we can just play the game the way we want to.
I like how you highlight Nags and his contribution here, because side by side, you guys were all following up amazingly from one another. Can you highlight how it's been being able to play under FaZe and together with Nags and the rest of the squad, how that's been able to influence not only their trust in your team to help follow up, but the way that that's allowed you to open up as a player too with the POI drafts now in place?
I mean, I feel like our play has definitely evolved. Like, I thought to myself that I was like a good IGL already, but now with like a good team as well, like I can literally do whatever I want. Like I can pop off, I can play hard frag, I can clutch. I can do all that. Like it's like I unlocked all the chains just disappeared with like Nags.
Yeah, you mentioned that now you feel a little bit more free. Does that mean that it also affects how free you feel enabled when you're drafting when it comes to World's Edge and on Stormpoint? What kind of effect has that had on your draft with the addition of Nags?
Well, draft is just like, I don't think drafting changed much. Like drafting is all about how good you are as an IGL. Like you have to know every single POI to be able to draft correctly. Like if you go to comfort picks, you just will never succeed. Like you will never win. There's just no way. You have to like know everything, like every POI, and be able to play the game flexibly. Yeah, I mean.
And overall, I mean, okay, so I've been seeing some focus, not focus, but I think a lot more teams are feeling a little bit more comfortable with Overlook. Were you guys happy with that overall draft pick? What kind of went into the thought process when you guys chose Overlook for this match day?
Well, we had 20th pick, so we had like decent, like we could pick in the middle of the pack like twice in a row. So it was basically just Overlook was like the only, I think there was the only like remaining decent POI, like the loot, amount of loot, the amount of like what kind of rotates, like Overlook was just like the medium, and it was like the only one left, I think. So we got kind of lucky with that. But I think Overlook is not that great actually, especially now that draft system makes people play Fragment, and people playing Fragment will get the no name, and that just cuts your loot in half basically, and just cocks your rotates. Like it's it's not that good of a POI anymore, to be honest.
Well, I will say you made it look really good in today's games, and maybe it's a bit of a fluke, maybe it's just good IGLing, but I am really happy to see you, Synetic, being able to succeed alongside with the rest of the team. We talked about the journey up from Challenger Circuit for you and Arctic, now with Nags. It's just really impressive. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, congratulations on a wonderful performance today.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you guys as well.
Well, we can look forward to talking to Synetic a little bit more in future, because it doesn't look like this performance is going anywhere. Clearly very confident in his IGLing abilities. Vicky, it's been a big day for teams all across EMEA. And again, we keep twisting our standings up. Things are changing fast in EMEA, and with only 2 round-robin days left to go, what are you thinking, leaving us after the first day of it?
I can't wait to see what these last 2 days have in store for us, because with a lot of these teams now shifting in the overall standings, it can then further highlight who the top 20 teams will be left standing to compete in that regional final. So it's definitely been interesting to see these mid-season roster swaps, whether it be teams disbanding to go into other rosters. It's definitely shook up a lot of things, and I know the Blacklist fans are rallying together, because that was an impressive final game to make a statement, but even better to see teams like FaZe, Gaiman, be able to still stay on top in the top 3, no matter the situation.
And it is fascinating, Jamerson, watching how teams like Blacklist and FaZe, who pride themselves on their IGLing ability and flexibility, are starting to take a little bit more command now that we're moving into the later part of the season in EMEA, maybe changing some of the zone central ways that the games have been going so far. You think so?
Well, I think like one of my biggest takeaways so far, we were wondering especially about the strength of Blacklist International, and we already know how strong EMEA can play off of priority to zone, but they were able to prove that they were, like you said, able to play flexibly. They came in hard edge on one of their victories, and they were also able to play zone on Stormpoint and on World's Edge. So right there alone, it shows that they do have the kind of flexibility to really hang with some of the top rosters. This huge shift going from 21st all the way up to what, something like 10th place overall for Blacklist International is incredibly important. Going into game number 6, it leaves them with a little bit more wiggle room to try and hit top 8. So I'm really impressed by that team, and I think they're definitely a squad that we need to keep an eye on moving forward.
We should have no problem doing it, since it appears that they're in end games all the time, but we can look forward to that during the future days of EMEA. Vicky and Jamerson, thank you so much for joining me. It's been wonderful listening to you two cast, and now we're going to close out the show, so I'll see you later. All right. Now, that it is just you and I, yes, you, the audience. Let's talk a little bit about what we can look forward to in the next couple of hours, because we are not done with Apex for the day, not by a long shot. NA is coming up in just an hour and 35 minutes. We are so close. So if you're planning to stay up, let's say you're in Europe and you're planning to maybe hang around, learn a little bit about what NA has to offer as we approach international competition, it's still totally doable. Grab some water, grab a snack, and if you're in North America and catching the end of Europe, welcome. This has certainly been an exciting match day. We've had a lovely time today, and you can look forward to even more excitement in North America. For even more, you can always follow us on @PlayApex Esports, on X, on Twitch, and on YouTube, really anywhere. And in the meantime, well, we've got a lot more Apex Legends to look forward to, perhaps seeing a few new compositions and a few new playstyles in North America. I will see you then. Auf Wiedersehen.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel.